An entitled Karen and her demon spawn freak out on me after her kid breaks one of our iPads that we use for our business at a bowling alley. Things got so bad that she literally got herself and her kid banned from the bowling tournament that was going on at the moment, resulting in one of the greatest forms of karma I've ever seen in my life. Here's what happened. So I work at a bowling alley, and today we had a very large tournament, roughly 6 people on all 40 lanes. At the start of the day, it was nice and quiet until about 2 to 3 hours in. This kid, who was maybe 10 to 12 years old, that was sat directly in front of the front counter, had their iPad out and the iPad ran out of battery. Well, the kid lost it at this point, practically screaming at his mother to charge it or to play on her phone. But you know what? She clearly didn't care. She basically told him to sit down and shut up. Now, the kid only did about half of that as he started walking around the counter. He then noticed the iPad that we have behind the counter, which is something we use to help keep track of reservations and parties going on in the bowling alley. Well, when he saw our iPad, his face lit up like it was Christmas morning. Now, as I always do, when a kid runs behind the counter, I stop them and I say, "Whoa, little buddy, you can't be back here." The kid then looked at me, pointed at the iPad, and said, "But I want it." But I responded by saying, "Sorry, little dude, but that's our important iPad. I can't let you have it." The kid then said to me, "Oh, okay," and then walked away. Now, me, thinking that was the end of it, I went back to doing my usual stuff for my job, especially when it comes to having like a tournament going on in our facility. Fast forward to maybe about 5 minutes later, and I see out of the corner of my eye, the kid sneaking around the side of the counter and reaching out to the iPad. Once again, I told him he can't have it this time, with a bit more of a strict tone to it to tell him that I'm serious. With me still looking at him, he reached out more and more until he grabbed it and ran away. Luckily though, he didn't get far. He ended up tripping over one of the many ball bags strewn across the floor behind the bowlers. However, and unfortunately, he landed on the tiled off eating area, smashing the tablet on the ground. Naturally, the kid started bawling and I rushed over to grab the iPad off the ground, only for some of the glass to fall out. Well, the mother was definitely not pleased about any of this. She looked beet red as she hurried over and shouted, "How could you hurt my little pumpkin?" I then explained the situation to her and how her child tripped and smashed the iPad, and she gave me the stereotypical response where she said to me, "My child is an angel and he could do no wrong." She then demanded that we pay her for a new iPad for her son. I then told her that's not how this works, and she started causing a scene. In fact, she was so loud that the tournament head came over noticing the commotion and asked what was going on, and obviously we both gave our sides of the story. He then said that since the damage happened during his tournament, he would reimburse us for the damaged iPad, but the mother, the son, and her bowler were all kicked out and the bowler was disqualified. And honestly, I feel bad for the bowler. I mean, he was doing pretty good in the tournament, but thanks to a crappy parent, it was all null and void. I talked with the official later on, and he said that she's been a problem at other places before for similar issues, and as such, she's always being too rowdy and not watching her kid. And apparently, she has been warned at their last tournament that if it happened again, her son would be disqualified from the tournament. And sure, I do feel bad about it, but honestly, oh well, because this entitled Karen and her demon spawn absolutely had it coming. Imagine being so entitled that you literally try to flip the script for something your stupid, idiotic 12-year-old kid actually did on their own. Like seriously, think about it for a second. This kid stole property that wasn't his, ran off with it, and then broke it on the ground, and then tried to cry wolf as if he got hurt somehow. And then the mom swoops in and says, "Oh, you're paying for this iPad." It's like, hey genius, not only is it not your iPad, but if anyone should have to pay for it, it should be her. And I totally get it. The tournament organizers trying to be nice and trying to like bail you out or something like that. But seriously, that lady absolutely should have paid for that iPad. Those things are not cheap. And the fact that she just broke one, assuming it was hers, and then tried to be like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna pay me back for this." Like, I'm sure she was probably waiting for something like this to happen, because this just seems so immediate in my opinion. So good for you for being attentive and definitely putting your foot down, because this Karen and her stupid kid were completely out of line. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I've been dealing with these annoying spam callers for so long that I finally snapped and decided to return the favor, as I called them back hundreds of times, forcing them to get it through their heads that I don't want to talk to them. Here's what happened. Okay, so I recently scam called my scam callers and it got them to finally stop. They were calling 10 to 15 times a day, each time spoofing a US-based location, and had the exact same voicemail, which has forced me to need to delete my entire voicemail inbox literally 3 times weekly for at least a year. And trust me, this is extremely frustrating. So many calls during work meetings, important moments with my friends, etc. Every single time, it's the same voice message. They would say something like, "This is Jennifer from the senior underwriting team calling about your loan." And after doing some research, I found a post about this specific scam, and in one comment, a guy claimed to have scam called called them back, and it finally got them to stop. So I thought to myself, why not? Let's see if it works. I called, I put myself on mute, and I hung up after about 5 to 10 seconds of them talking. And I did this exactly 266 times in 35 minutes, each time to the same number, and I cycled through 20 to 30 employees with accents from Australia to India to Mid-Atlantic, as well as at least 3 different company names they claim to be from, and many scripts. Sometimes they'd start one script, then mess up and start another one. Other times they'd just say hello, but the best one is when they would change mid-script what company they were claiming to be from. After about 150 calls, I started getting intermittently hung up on immediately after they answered the call, and I knew I was getting to them. Finally, at call 260, I reached the final boss. In a deep mob boss style voice, this guy said, and I kid you not, "Sir, you gotta stop with these spam calls. I mean, seriously, you gotta have something better to do with your time, right?" Now, this all happened Thursday, and you know what? I'm still riding the high to this day. Wow, it is so ironic that the people who were scam calling you tried to literally be like, "You're spamming our phone lines, you need to stop it." And it's like, okay, what about what you guys have been doing to me for so long? And the fact that they're leaving voicemails like that, in my opinion, is the worst part about it. They're flooding your inbox with useless crap, and they're seriously just bothering you for no reason. So good for you for getting some much needed revenge, because in my opinion, these people absolutely deserve it. Am I the jerk for kicking a homeless woman out of the hotel that I work at? As I really feel bad about doing this, and I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Here's what happened. Okay, so I work at a 5-star hotel, and more than a month ago, a woman came to the lobby at around 10 o'clock p.m. and asked if she could stay for a while inside. She was presentable and polite, so we agreed. At around 4 o'clock in the morning, she finally left, but the day afterwards, she came back with the same request, and again, we allowed her to stay and sleep for a while. That is, until she left at around 5 o'clock in the morning. This kept on repeating for the next days, and she started coming earlier, asking for food and drinks from the bar, and staying until later and asking for breakfast in the morning. We eventually got a warning from our supervisor saying that this cannot keep on happening, and the next day when she came again, which by the way, this has been going on for 3 weeks, we had to kick her out at around 2 o'clock in the morning. However, she just kept coming every single day. She has now been coming to the hotel every night for 5 weeks straight, where she has asked more than once if she could shower in one of the rooms, store her heavy bags which she carries every night, and even paid for a room which was more than $200 a night just for one of the nights. We have offered to help her several times, giving her recommendations for homeless shelters and the like, but she keeps on denying it. The reception team has even offered to get her a room at a cheap hotel, to which she says no, and she claims to have no friends or family that can help her out. The part I cannot understand is that she is always clean with clean clothing, she smells nice, and she's always polite. She often uses her MacBook and iPhone at the reception and has never disturbed anyone. I know from a logical point of view we can give her shelter and leftover food, but it's part of the hotel policy that no one can sleep in the lobby, not even any of the guests at the hotel. In the last few times we had to kick her out, she complains that no woman should be left alone in the streets at night, and it really makes me feel like a jerk to ask her to leave. So am I the jerk? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, no, you're definitely not the jerk. This is not your problem because literally you're just doing your job. This is not a homeless shelter. This is a place of business. This is a 5-star hotel that has standards. And so it makes perfect sense that your manager would be like, no, she can't sleep in the lobby. That's not good for business and I don't want that. So no, you're not the jerk in the slightest. I would not feel bad about this at all because there is options available for her that she can go to if she really is homeless. And for her to guilt trip you like that, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. My entitled stepmother invited her family to my graduation parties, quite literally all without asking me first, ruining the entire event and forcing me to want to cancel altogether. And at this point, I don't know if I'm in the wrong because now I'm incredibly stressed out. Here's what happened. I'm a 23-year-old female and I'm graduating college in May, and I'm 5 months pregnant with my first child, which for the record, I'm having with my 26-year-old male partner. My mom passed away when I was young, so I was raised by my dad. We've always had a solid relationship, but things have often been strained by his wife, who we will call Mary, who got married to my dad when I was 13 years old. Now, Mary is okay, but we've had tension over the years due to her doing some shady things when I was younger and our completely opposite political and religious beliefs. Still, ever since becoming pregnant, I've made an effort to be warmer towards her. I truly believe she cares about my child, and as someone who grew up lacking that kind of support, I want my son to be surrounded by as much love as possible. Mary offered to plan my baby shower, and I was grateful. Between being pregnant, my final semester of my degree, and managing my high blood pressure, I just didn't have the energy to plan it myself. She's never had children, and this may be my only one, so I figured it's a kind gesture. But things started getting uncomfortable when she began pulling more and more of her own family into the planning. Then she suggested throwing 2 baby showers, one for my people, meaning my friends and my partner's family, and one for her people, which would be extended and deeply conservative and frankly difficult family members. Now that really rubbed me the wrong way, especially since my graduation party had already been canceled due to money concerns. But still, I just let that go, partly to avoid conflict, and mostly because free baby stuff is free baby stuff. So I shifted focus to a similar graduation party, a small dinner with a few close friends and family, no more than 12 people, including my partner's family who still haven't met my dad. But you know what? Mary took that over too, inviting 8 of her family members without asking, and that really felt like a slap in the face. Now for reference, her family has never embraced me. I have always felt judged, ignored, or out of place around them. Over the past 10 years, they've never once asked how school was going or shown any support. And now I'm expected to smile through dinner with people who have treated me like a stranger while I'm pregnant, as well as overwhelmed and just trying to celebrate a huge milestone. It devastated me and I cried for days. And Mary doesn't take feedback well. She once canceled my Sweet 16 over an argument we had 4 months prior. I messaged her to say that dinner no longer felt like it was for me and that her guest list made it stressful, and let my people know that we'll do some separate gathering later. And to be honest, I'm still upset. It's not about just being mean. Her family can be unsafe. Her brother has mental health issues, has inappropriately touched my dog in front of everybody, including Mary, and you know what? She just laughed about it. I have 2 baby nieces and a child on the way. I will not risk having them around someone like that. If that causes drama, then honestly, so be it. So am I the jerk for being furious and canceling dinner? I know my pregnancy hormones are strong, but I feel like my boundaries are being trampled during what should be a joyful time in my life. What should I do? No, you're not the jerk at all. Mary sounds obnoxious and she sounds very controlling. And I think you trying to have like a baby shower with her, in my opinion, was like a last-ditch effort. It seems like this is you extending an olive branch for what has been a tumultuous upbringing. And once again, she has trampled all over that, and that is really not fair. It sucks that you have to deal with that, and I just don't blame you for being upset. So no, you're not the jerk. This really is supposed to be about you, and it's quite obvious that your stepmom is trying to make it about her. Am I the jerk for installing a lock on my bathroom door after my roommate started using it, despite the fact that we all agree that that bathroom is mine? Here's what happened. I'm a 26-year-old female, and I live with a 25 and 27-year-old male in a shared house that we rent. When we all first moved in here about 6 months ago, we all signed agreements on certain things. One of those things being that I will solely cover the cost of the water bill, but the spare bathroom in the house is mine. And this was all completely fine until about 2 weeks ago. My 27-year-old roommate, who I will call John for the sake of the story, recently started using my shower randomly out of the blue. I figured maybe they ran into each other and he needed a shower really quick for work, and I thought no biggie and that it wasn't that big of a deal. But this turned into John using my bathroom every single day, showering, going to the bathroom, shaving, and leaving hair everywhere, and honestly, I've had enough. So I cleaned the entire bathroom and I installed a lock on it with a key that only I have. After I did this, John sent a message to our group chat saying, and I quote, "Why is the bathroom locked? What is happening?" Now, in the days leading up to this, I spoke to my other roommate and he agreed with me that I should lock it and be done with it, and has zero issues with that one being mine per our agreement. When John first sent that message, I was just clocking into work, so I sent a quick, "Well, because I pay extra for that bathroom to be solely mine." And after that, I left my phone in my locker, and when I got on my break, I came back to a bunch of messages in our group chat with some of the highlights blowing my mind. He said stuff like, "No you do not. If I can't use the bathroom in our house, I might as well just move out." And he was essentially just throwing a fit about the entire thing. So seriously, am I the jerk for locking the door down? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Like, maybe you could have talked to John ahead of time and been like, "Hey, can you not use that bathroom?" And then remind him of the agreement that you guys had when you first moved in. Because that might have been like a good solution to this problem, but from the sounds of it, it doesn't seem like John would have like responded to that at all. And if anything, it probably would have made things just a little bit worse. So I understand why you went from like cleaning it up to then locking it down and being like, "No, you're not going to use it." And if this guy really is like, "Oh, I'm not going to live here anymore if I can't use that bathroom," at that point I would be like, "Oh, okay, off you go then. Like, there's the door if you really want to leave." Because everybody agreed to this stipulation. This is your bathroom while you guys are living here, and if he doesn't like it, then yeah, he probably should leave. So no, you're not the jerk, because in my opinion, what you're enforcing with them is completely reasonable. Am I the jerk for telling my sister-in-law that I would leave my son's birthday party if she invited my husband's ex? Because this is seriously obnoxious, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I really need an outside opinion because I seriously feel like I'm going crazy. My husband and I have been together for almost 10 years. He has a daughter from a previous relationship, and her mom left when she was little. She wanted to live life and signed over full custody. My stepdaughter and I have always had a great bond. She used to call me mama, would bake with me, play with my hair, help with everything around the house. And when my son was born, she was the most loving big sister. But for the past 6 to 8 months, things have changed. She started spending more time with her mom again, and slowly I became invisible. She stopped calling me mama, she got colder, more distant, and even corrected me in front of others. One day she said to me, "My real mom says only real moms get to decide things about me," and that really crushed me. Now I didn't argue and I just said nothing. I figured she was growing up and processing a lot. Around the same time, my mother-in-law, who is married to my husband's brother, reconnected with his ex, my stepdaughter's mom. They were childhood friends, and suddenly the ex was showing up at family gatherings, as well as Sunday lunches and birthdays. The same woman the entire family used to trash for walking out is now welcome like nothing happened. And at first I stayed quiet even though it really hurt. But then came my son's birthday. My sister-in-law was helping me plan the party, and during the conversation in my mother-in-law's kitchen, she casually said, "Oh, and your ex is bringing a little birthday gift for the birthday boy." And when she said this, I was stunned. I asked if she had invited her, and she said yes, because she's the mother of his sister and part of the family. I then calmly told her, if she shows up, I will leave with my son. I am not comfortable with that. She then called me insecure and said that I was being childish, and that she had been friends with my ex long before I entered the picture, that I'm just jealous because some woman can't handle their man's past. I walked away and I told my husband, and he understood how I felt, but he hates family drama and said he didn't want to take sides. Now, my sister-in-law is saying I'm ruining the party, I'm being selfish, and I'm trying to erase the mother of my stepdaughter. But this woman left her daughter behind. I stepped in when she was gone. I stayed up through every fever, every nightmare, every single birthday, and now she's re-entering like a hero while I'm pushed aside. What really broke me was when my stepdaughter said, "My mom promised that she'd sing me happy birthday with me and my brother. She deserves to be there too. I feel like no matter what I do, I will always be a placeholder." So I really need to know, am I the jerk for saying I'd leave my own son's birthday party if my husband's ex came along? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, this is so stupid it's not even funny, because I can't believe your spouse is not taking your side. This is not a matter of family drama. This is a huge violation of privacy and a massive boundary that everybody's just conveniently ignoring. And that's not fair for you. You literally do not deserve that, and the fact that no one's taking this seriously says volumes about this family. So it's like, you mean to tell me they would willingly let this person back into all of their lives, even though this person has made everybody's lives miserable? And I understand people trying to forgive others and move on with their lives, but it's especially annoying when you're like, okay, but I haven't found any solace or any kind of like, I don't know, resolution about any of this. So no, you're not the jerk for not wanting her there, and for saying that you'll leave with your son all because she might be there in the first place, because that really sounds super toxic, and I don't blame you for being upset. Am I the jerk if I remove a bridesmaid from my wedding party when I'm their maid of honor? Because right now they've made me very uncomfortable, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 32-year-old female, and I gathered my future bridesmaids the other day for wedding dress shopping. One of my bridesmaids, who we will call Cherry, was the second to arrive, and after giving her a formal "will you be my bridesmaid" gift, she made the comment of saying, "Well, we all know that I should be the maid of honor." This threw me off a bit because even prior to getting engaged, I've always been firm and clear with my friends that my BFF will be my maid of honor. What's more is that she said this in front of another bridesmaid bestie of mine who we will call Skylar. I stated that it's rude to say that, since my position on who would be my maid of honor has been firm for years longer than my friendship with Cherry. Cherry then quipped back that since I'm her maid of honor, it's only fair that she be mine, and then semi-sulked throughout the entire dress try-ons. Fast forward to the lunch, and it's now 3 of my bridesmaids and some family, and she asks loudly how much I'll be spending on my wedding. I state that it's a private matter between my fiance and I, and then she turns the conversation to her own wedding, which is, by the way, a year after mine, and how much money she's saved by buying used, how she's planning on spending $10,000, and that I should come to her for planning and advice. Now, I thank her and I reinforce again that my fiance and I will be planning our wedding based on our budget, as well as the venue and the vendor availabilities for our wedding. She then turns the conversations to bridesmaid outfits and colors, and as I'm doing a specific color scheme, I give her a color range to choose from. The dress choice is their own, as I want my bridesmaids to look and feel their best. Well, in front of everyone, she demanded that she have first choice of dress color and that she wanted someone else's palette range. At this point, I don't know what else to say, and she goes on to say that I'm her maid of honor and that she wouldn't do this to me, which, by the way, she has given me zero choice on anything. When I got home later that day with Skylar, she made a comment that she felt pretty uncomfortable with Cherry, and I also received a call from my maid of honor with some concerns over her interactions with Cherry and how it felt like Cherry wants to be the center of attention for literally everything wedding related on my end. And I honestly can't say that I don't disagree with their feelings and perspectives. In reality, and this makes me feel like a jerk, I don't want to have Cherry in my bridal party, as I have other close friends that I want to be there with me. However, I feel obligated, as she made me her maid of honor and has been vocal about being in my wedding party for a few years of my relationship. I'm preparing to have a heartfelt conversation with her about this and set the expectation that if she continues with this path of statements and attitude, then I will have to remove her from the wedding party. So am I the jerk if I do this? I live a very much go with the flow kind of lifestyle, and I'm approaching the wedding planning with my fiance in the same way, and it's making me anxious having these kinds of conversations and interactions and energy involved in the process. So at this point, I'm so confused because I don't know what to do. Okay, no, I do not think you're the jerk at all. Cherry sounds obnoxious, and it seems like this is all premeditated because she clearly wants to be the maid of honor and no one else should in her opinion. And that is stupid. That's really dumb, and I just don't think you should have to deal with that. I do think that if you kick her out as a bridesmaid, you will also probably have to step down as maid of honor, because I could never imagine that working, and honestly, from the sounds of it, it doesn't seem like working with Cherry would be a pleasant experience in the slightest. My entitled father makes my life a living nightmare after I drop out of college, mocking me and scolding me for not being the man that he wants me to be, while also forcing me to pay rent that I literally cannot afford. And after dealing with that for 6 months, and finally finding a solution in getting out of his house, his final words to me were to say that I was a disappointment and a mistake. And I'm honestly so done with my father. Here's what happened. So for a bit of context, by this time I was 19 years old, so it would be about 10 years ago this day, and sadly I dropped out of college within months of starting because of a variety of problems, mostly from depression and stress that wasn't helped by my mom trying to tell me what to do. My mom and dad were long divorced by this point, and I ended up moving to my dad's, who at the time had zero internet at the home. It was, in the words of my dad, punishment for me throwing away my one chance at being useful to this world. I then worked as a cashier at a restaurant chain in the nearby town. For reference, my dad lived and still lives out in the country. I would say things were rather uneventful, but he made sure that wouldn't be the case by being his usual entitled self. Some of these things were brief and usual, like him screaming at me for doing anything leisurely instead of working 24/7. You know, I simply couldn't do things like watching TV or going for a walk, or he would even belittle me for trying to start drawing as a hobby, while also calling me names in the process. Here's some of the extreme things he did in those 6 months that we lived together. One of the first things he did was shortly after I got my job. Things were going relatively well at the job, despite one woman who found me just as pathetic as my dad did. Thank God she wasn't in any management position, and that the manager and boss didn't like her behavior any more than I did, not to mention some customers calling me awful names for making an error on their order. However, as par for the course of a part-time job, even back then, I wasn't working much and I wasn't getting that much money. I did have a talk with my boss about the hours and about how someday she'll send me home early if there was no business, but she said it was something she had to do. When I told my dad, he wasn't happy. He told me that I had to make her give me more hours, but I told her that if she can't, then she can't. He then suddenly punched the wall right next to me and had the glare on his face that I've come to recognize that things were gonna get violent. So now I was scared for my well-being. He told me that now that he got me scared, I'm willing to do whatever he wanted to keep myself safe. He then went on this huge rant about how real men get what they want by making promises to hurt people. He said that you have to hurt those who stand in your way, and you also have to hurt people that you don't like or people that hold you back. And that if I don't do that, then I'm not a man. Instead, I'm just a mistake. Although I didn't tell my manager what he did, I did tell her that he might go to her angry once he finds out that she has to send me home early if business is not working that day. She simply said that if he does so, or if he bruises me up, she will call the cops. And she even told him that directly. Well, as a result, I was punished with rent that I never even expected that cost most of my monthly amount of paychecks. Another thing that happened is that I almost passed away from his negligence. My dad is one of those country folk who heats up the house with a furnace. You know, those big cube-like iron things that are like a combination of a fireplace and a heater. Yeah, one of those things. Well, on this day, I had a night shift, and my dad was going to be out of the area until very late due to work. So my grandfather, his dad, offered to take me to and from work. I was enjoying the day to myself, doing what I wanted, watching whatever was on TV that caught my eye, drawing or at least attempting to draw some doodles, playing some video games, etc. By the time it got to the afternoon, I found that I was oddly sleepy. I decided to lay on the bed and close my eyes for an hour or two, and it was just enough time to get a bit more energy in me for a potentially busy night, but also so that I'll have plenty of time to get ready. So I just closed my eyes to go to sleep, but I was suddenly shaken awake by my grandfather, grandfather, who looked absolutely relieved that I was conscious. In my blurry state, I heard an alarm going off, and he had me grab my work clothes and my phone and took me to his house nearby to help me get my head clear before changing and going to work. What had happened was the furnace was not properly cared for, and there was a lot of gunk blocking the pipe leading outside, and the house was slowly but steadily filling with carbon monoxide. It didn't take long to get better once I was able to breathe clean air, and although I was feeling a bit woozy, I managed to work as much as I could. Now, it wasn't a long shift, maybe about 3 to 4 hours, and my grandma was the one who picked me up. She said my dad got home not too long ago, and they managed to clear the carbon monoxide of the home pretty quickly, and my grandpa was scolding my dad like crazy. Sure enough, when I got home, my grandfather was angry at my dad, and to my surprise, his sister was also there, scolding him as well. However, he was not once remorseful over what had happened. He was annoyed that they were getting on his case, even when they tried to hammer in the fact that there was a chance that I could have passed away. He simply said, "Well, he didn't, so stop making this such a big deal." I did thankfully move out of his place very quickly. It was a few months after the carbon monoxide incident. My job unfortunately burned to the ground from an electrical fire, and I had the choice to either carpool to the next nearest location about 40 minutes away or just find a different job. So you know what? I chose the latter, and my grandma on my mom's side offered to move me to her town as there was far more job opportunities there than where I was currently living at. Now, of course, my dad was not happy about that. He went to my bank account, and yes, he did the usual entitled parent thing of having the bank account as a joint account so he could get in without my permission, and he took out a huge chunk of my money. His excuse was to claim that this was the rest of the year's rent. My grandma tried to find a legal way to get the money back, but since it was a joint account, we were told that he technically didn't break any law. And while I was packing up to move, my dad constantly told me how much of a disappointment I am, how I'm the reason my parents got a divorce, how I deserved all the awful treatment that I got, and that nobody likes or tolerates me. Now, my grandma did put him in his place, but that just escalated to where he told me that he wishes I was never born, although I regret not talking to my grandma about cutting him off then. I mean, I had no idea back then that you could do such a thing, but that was the beginning of me slowly going no contact with him to eventually only talking to him whenever I had to. Wow, your father sounds awful. Seriously, I can't imagine putting up with that for 6 months. That honestly must have been insane living through that every single day and dealing with his awful attitude and his condescending demeanor. First of all, his definitions of like, oh, you gotta be violent if you want to be a man. If you want people to respect you, you've gotta hurt them and threaten them. Like, dude, what are you talking about? This guy literally punched a wall because you got cut hours at your part-time job. Like, seriously, don't you think we're overreacting just a little bit? And then after you tell him, look, there's nothing I could do about it, he says, oh, I'm gonna go down there and I'm gonna do something about it. Like, buddy, what are you doing? Are you trying to get me fired? It's either that or you're seriously trying to go to jail. And both options seem pretty stupid right about now. It's also super brutal about the banking situation because joint accounts are like the first thing that entitled parents go to when they're like, oh, cool, here's some free cash. Like, seriously, there's no good excuse for that. Like, that was your money. This guy didn't need rent money. He literally just took a big chunk of your money just to be a jerk. And that is honestly so unfortunate because you did not deserve that. It is really cool though to see your grandfather and your grandmother basically have your back. Like, they straight away saw that this guy sucks and that he's not a good father. It's just so unfair for you because you already dropped out of college and then for 6 months you have to deal with this monster every single day. So honestly, I'm so glad you got out of that environment. Your dad sounds like a monster, and there is literally no good excuse for his behavior. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled group of customers come into my restaurant and cause absolute chaos, refusing to order food at the same time while also challenging me and my coworker on everything that they ordered, claiming that certain food absolutely should be taken off the bill. And I've honestly never been more blown away by somebody's entitlement in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, first off, I want to say I'm sorry because I definitely need to vent. I don't really tend to get angry easily in my job. Many people, if they're rude, I can just chalk it up to having a bad day or just brush it off. And at the end of the day, it's them that are miserable and not me. But last night, we had a group of about 15 people walk in. They ignored my manager at the host stand and just walked halfway into the restaurant before being stopped and asked if they needed anything. It was weird, but okay, we get that sometimes. Some people just go to establishments establishments where you seat yourself. They were told that we needed a few minutes to set up a table for their party size, and once it was done, they just ignored the table that we made for them and started sitting in smaller groups all around the restaurant in tables which were reserved for others. My manager told them that they had to sit on the table that we had organized for them because the other tables were unavailable, and thankfully they eventually moved. When my coworker went over to serve them, they were immediately waving their hands in her face when they wanted to order and just being generally very rude. They were not saying please or thank you, barely even any eye contact. Only a couple of people were ready to order, but they insisted that they had their order put in right now, and they didn't want to wait for anybody else. And you know what? Fine, I guess it could be that way. But when my coworker returned to take the rest of the orders, only a few more were ready. And even when they were, she would go over to them and ask what they would like, and they wouldn't even look at her or respond. It was as if they weren't even listening. Other people who had already ordered started waving their hands in her face and saying they wanted to order something else as well. Eventually, when I was helping her bring over some of the food items for people who had already ordered, some people still had not ordered yet. I went over and I asked them who got this specific plate I was trying to hand out, and then some guy starts waving his hand in my face. I say to him, "Oh, is this yours?" And he suddenly looks surprised and shakes his head. And then I look around and I try to find out who the food is actually for. I told the guy that I'll take his order in a second when I have put down all the food. It takes me a minute or so to actually get everybody's attention to find out who actually got what. And every time I put down any kind of food on the table, the same guy waves his hand as if I'm now ready to take his order. Eventually, once everyone has everything, they then started complaining about specific items on the menu that we brought them, claiming that it's incorrect. And you know what? Both me and my coworker knew this. It's just that none of them were communicating about what each other got, and they were planning on sharing a few things. They ate the food anyways, but then decided that they wanted some of this food taken off the bill, which we didn't do, obviously. When it came time to pay the bill, obviously they all wanted to pay separately for what they got, which my coworker refused to do because it just takes far too much time during busy service hours to split the bill individually between 15 plus people. She asked them to look at the bill and tell her how much they wanted to pay towards it. All of a sudden, they all hopped up from their seats and surrounded her, and they all started staring at the device that she was using to pay the bills, which also has the items they ordered on it. They were all arguing very loudly, and one person eventually started screaming that everybody else needs to listen and calm down. Now, obviously, my coworker starts to feel very overwhelmed, having all these adult men around her screaming about what they want to pay and not even taking their turn at all. Eventually, she manages it, and before we can even calculate that they paid the right amount, as some of it was in cash and some was on a card, not to mention they took off the service charge, they just got up and walked out. What especially upset me is that this was my section. I had a small bucket of sweets tucked away that I would hand out to children. I mean, it is Halloween after all. On their way past, each of them walked over, reached in and grabbed a handful, yelling Happy Halloween as they walked out. And that was the last of the candy that I had because it was later in the evening. So many of the children in my section then went without any sweets for the rest of the day because they really picked that bucket clean. And I paid for that with my money too, so it really felt personal. The most irritating part of this encounter is that we had a similar sized table of younger girls who are unsupervised by a parent celebrating their friend's 16th birthday, and they were the sweetest, most respectful people that they've ever had in a big group. They weren't loud and they were polite, and they even tipped, which is quite uncommon for England, which is where I come from. And it really makes me wonder, how can a group of literal children behave better than a group of adult men? Because at this point, I am honestly still blown away by their behavior. Yeah, that's an awful situation to be stuck in. You have this massive table and they're not even following the rules. They're walking in and sitting wherever they want. They're not ordering at the same time, which is insane to me. And they're just being really obnoxious and just completely rude. Like, I'm surprised you got anything done with those people. Like, seriously, that must have been awful. But hey, you know what? At least you got it done and you got them out of there. And hopefully this doesn't happen ever again, because I'm pretty sure I would want to switch jobs if I had to deal with that twice. Today, I messed up by oversharing with a girl I was interested in, and as a result, I ended up scaring her away before I could even attempt to have anything further than a friendship. And I now feel so dumb and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I first want to say that this has been technically going on for over a month or two, but it likely culminated yesterday. Now, back in the beginning of September, maybe the tail end of August, this lady and her two roommates started coming into my job. The first interaction or two were small and not especially notable, other than us joking a bit about some new candy at the store, and her unexpectedly sharing a piece with me after buying it. It wasn't until future encounters that we started chatting more deeply. The roommates were cool, but I felt like me and this woman had hit it off pretty well as we bonded over shared childhood bullying experiences. For reference, when I was a kid, I had a lisp and I had a speech issue, and for her, she moved to Germany and she had to learn a new language. She so eloquently stated that people are jerks in reference to me getting teased growing up, and I found that super endearing. Coincidentally, my grandmother is German, so that was another small connection that we had. We even found out we live on the same street during one of these early encounters. This was also around the time when the hot chip challenge stuff was going on, and it was being promoted, so that was like a discussion point between the two of us, and it really was a good time. But anyways, every time she'd come in, usually with one of her roommates or another, I would get to know her a little bit more, and eventually we exchanged phone numbers. I also started giving her and the roommates some leftovers from work, partly because I liked them and I was trying to be nice, and more depressingly, because I had hoped that they'd keep coming back if I kept giving them my stuff. My own insecurities left me feeling like maybe I wouldn't be good enough on my own. Now, on that note, this is where I feel my first mess up really started. While we hit it off pretty well at my job, I couldn't stop myself from feeling slightly ignored over the phone. I would text and get a reply back once in a blue moon. Granted, most of my messages were rather similar or basic, but I was scared to overstep and upset her in some kind of way. She would only message me first one time in all the time that we had each other's number. I started questioning if I was being a nuisance to her and her friend group and wound up sending a long-winded text. I said to her, "I'm sorry if I'm being annoying, I'll stop." It was one of those messages. Now, I hadn't seen her for a few days after that, and I regretted sending the text as soon as I sent it, and followed it up with 2 more long-winded messages apologizing. But eventually, one of her roommates came in and stated that she and the others had been sick. Now, part of me thought that he was covering for her, just like in the way that I would think any friend would do if somebody didn't want to talk to someone. She eventually showed up and confirmed that she had been sick and had also had a big fight with the roommates, so she had been at her parents' house for a little while. When she saw me, she said that she was happy it was me working, and we got to clear the air. I expressed to her that I always feel like everyone secretly hates me, and she had empathized with that feeling herself. I felt really good about things again by the end of that conversation. Somewhere along the way, I'd started to realize that I really fancied this woman, and I really wanted to make something more out of it, but I was terrified that she would say no and then never want to see me again. I'd sacrifice having a relationship with her if it meant that I'd get to keep her as a friend. I would be more happy with that scenario. Well, the following scenario is my last interaction. I hadn't seen her for a few more days, and so my brain started to do what it does best, which is making me feel like garbage about myself. I started to wonder if maybe she'd only come in that time and clear the air because she figured it would get me to stop sending her lengthy apology text messages, and now she could vanish in peace and quiet. She seemed super genuine though during the whole interaction, so that was really messing with me. My big mess up though came amidst all of this when I decided to share my feelings for her. I had wanted to do it in person, but I let my shyness prevent me from doing it earlier, and now I didn't know if I'd ever see her again, so I sent it over text messaging. It was another lengthy message, but this is basically what it said. I said to her, "I like you. Would you be interested in doing something together? If you just want to be friends, that's cool as well." Now, I haven't heard or seen from her since, and it's been days. I felt relief after expressing my feelings, since I did want it out in the open, but now I just feel regret. I think that I should have just kept it hidden away. Maybe then I'd still get to see her from time to time. Part of me also regrets giving away all the freebie treats because I can't help wondering if she thinks I did it solely as an attempt to butter her up before asking her this, and it was actually one reason I was so hesitant to ask for so long. Since then, I've gone a bit crazy, and I ended up sending her a few more lengthy messages, apologizing and being hypercritical of myself. I let things get away from me, and I could feel myself turning into one of those jerks who bothers women nonstop, even if my messages weren't really aggressive or anything like that. I mean, it was clear that she just wasn't interested in further dialogue, and yet here I was, still trying to get something, any communication from her. I sent one last message the other day, basically apologizing once more for continuously bothering her with all of these messages. I wished her well, and that I'd let her be going forward here and now. I know I've made myself look like an absolute idiot to her, and probably her roommates as well. I just couldn't get myself to stop making it worse. Now, it would sting, but I'd mostly be okay with being rejected, so long as this new friendship could remain intact. But it's just this silent treatment that is absolutely destroying me. I absolutely regret how everything played out because I genuinely genuinely think this could have been a nice lifelong bond, whether that's friendship or otherwise. I mean, we really connected with one another regarding so many things. But now, with all things considered, I seriously am at a loss and I don't know what to do. This really is an unfortunate situation because it really sounds like the original poster let their insecurities get the best of them. Like, this went from, hey, let me message you sometime, to you then sending these lengthy text messages that you really should not have sent in the first place. And seriously, from my perspective, it's not nearly as bad as you think. Like, yes, it is incredibly awkward, and I'm sure you didn't mean to come off as like really creepy or anything like that, but unfortunately, that might be the case. But with that in mind, it really is not the end of the world. This isn't the last person you will ever have some kind of connection with. Like, yes, this is incredibly awkward and you wish you hadn't have said half the things you said, but seriously, like, look around. Everybody around you has made some kind of like stupid remark or done something that's incredibly embarrassing that they wish had never happened in the first place. I could spend the next 2 hours talking about all the dumb things I've done in my life, and if I'm still standing and able to walk amongst society and move on with my life, then trust me, you could do the same thing. But hopefully this is a valuable lesson moving forward that I think if you just have some confidence in yourself, you really can go a long way. Like, sure, I get it. You were feeling insecure about the situation, as well as talking to this woman that you were really interested in, but I think this de-evolved into you sharing just a little bit too much, and that's probably where the silent treatment kicked in. I'm sure she didn't know how to take all of this information at once, since she is just now getting to know you, and you're expressing all these like anxieties that you have, and I know if I was in her shoes, I probably would not know how to respond either, regardless of whatever interest I might have in the other person. So honestly, with all that in mind, I wouldn't be so hard on yourself. Sure, this was a really awkward situation, but you can still move forward from this. It really is not the end of the world. And I really think you're going to be a better person moving forward when you find someone else that you connect with. My entitled classmate demands that I quit my job that I just got so that he can take it instead, claiming that he deserves it way more than I do after he spent 2 years interning at the job I'm currently getting. But even after I said no, this entitled jerk tries to spread rumors and toxic lies about me, proving to me once and for all why my coworkers didn't want anything to do with him. Here's what happened. So to start things out, I work as a teacher, and I've been doing so since 2008. In May of 2008, I had finished all subjects except for my thesis. Since I wouldn't have classes after the summer holiday, I ventured into the world of job interviews to secure a job and get some real experience. Well, I landed a job for 18 lessons a week for a short duration as it was for sick leave, and I knew I would have to start looking for a job again during the school year. Luck would have it that when they told me that my contract would end on the 31st of October, a job opening at my now previous job went up. So I wrote a resume and application letter, was invited for an interview, and within 2 days, I got a call letting me know that I got the job. I was so excited. This job started with a temporary contract that could turn into a fixed-term contract. Then, a week after I got hired, I got a call from a classmate from college. He asked me a bunch of questions, and the conversation went in a really weird direction. He basically started grilling me about my job. He not only asked me if I got the job, but he also clarified the specific school and place that I would be working. And after I did all that, I asked him, yes, now why do you need to know that? Well, he proceeds to tell me that this school was where he has done his internship for the past 2 years, and he really wanted to work at this school. I asked him if he had sent in a job application and such, and apparently he did. So I thought to myself, oh, okay, and I did kind of start feeling bad for him. I had heard of his enthusiasm in the last couple of years, but I never really remembered the name of the school. And that's when he said something that honestly blew my mind. He told me almost verbatim that I should not accept the job and that I should let him have it instead. He said to me, I've worked there as an intern for 2 years, so I have more of a right to it than you do. He then continues his rant that he has more experience with this school, as well as the way that they work, which is true to some extent. They do work somewhat differently than others, and they are a bit more traditional than anything else. He then demanded that I call the school back and give up my job that I just got, and I honestly was blown away when he said this. At this point, my voice had left me. I didn't know what to say. He kept on ranting and screaming that I had no right, and I should have asked him first before I took the job. And honestly, at this point, this was getting out of hand. I told him I had to go, and then I just hung up the phone. Over the next couple of weeks, I got a slew of messages and emails of him basically telling me not to take the job. Well, I ended up blocking him, and I started the job. At the end of the school year, I got a fixed-term contract and asked my colleagues and team lead about this classmate. My colleagues were quite blunt that they didn't like him. My team straight up told me that my classmate was very enthusiastic, but he was very very pushy. He wanted things done his way and did some other things that created bad blood between my classmate and the rest of the teachers. He also told me that my classmate had continuously called him, demanding that he give him a job. As one of my dearest colleagues said, he was a pushy piece of garbage, and you are a very good upgrade. After this incident, I never heard of my classmate ever again. He tried to slander me to other classmates, but they didn't believe him, and at reunions, he evaded me like the plague. And I'm honestly blown away by this guy's entitlement. That guy seriously is so far out of line, it's not even funny. Like, let's look at what happened here. This guy clearly burned some bridges at the place he was interning at, and this clearly left a very sour taste in everybody's mouth. Like, seriously, just look at how the other teachers reacted when the original poster mentioned this person to them. They basically said, yeah, this guy sucks and we don't want him. And honestly, with all things considered, I can kind of see why. Like, this guy was all over them, demanding a job left and right, forcing people to do things his way, while also creating a really hostile environment from the sounds of it. Not to mention the fact that this guy seriously tried to say to the original poster that they need to quit that job so that they can have it. Like, I'm sorry, buddy, but nobody's entitled to anything in life. If you wanted the job, you probably shouldn't have acted so weird. Like, honestly, how can people not understand that their own actions and their weird behavior have consequences? And it's nobody else's fault to try and mitigate that except for yourself. Like, I love the fact that this guy seriously was messaging them over and over again, constantly bothering the original poster, being like, no, you need to quit your job so I can have it. Like, seriously, buddy, from the sounds of it, they would not give you that job. It doesn't matter how long you work with them, they really don't like you. Like, how can he not understand that reality? That he left a horrible impression with these people and now they don't want anything to do with him. Like, based on what I'm hearing, I would never want to work with that. That sounds like a nightmare. So good for the original poster for still pursuing that job, as well as blocking this guy altogether, because this guy does not sound like a very nice person or someone you would want to be around. And based on his toxic behavior and the way he acted after he didn't get the job, it really makes sense as to why nobody likes him. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled husband is constantly claiming that I'm misremembering events, claiming that I never tell him anything that I want him to do, while essentially gaslighting me into questioning my own sanity. And after dealing with this for so long, I finally have decided to take notes on everything my husband says to me. And now that I have proof that he's been lying to me, he is now incredibly upset and is basically calling me a jerk for catching him in his words. And now, as a result, I'm at a complete loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 41-year-old female and I have been married to my 47-year-old husband for 15 years. Frequently, I will refer to a conversation that I've had with him previously, and he will say that I made it up and the conversation never happened. I misremember events a lot. For example, I thought I told him our children had dentist appointments on a certain date, but he said that I didn't. I could have sworn that I had that conversation. I even remember writing the appointment on the calendar on our fridge while we were talking. Well, the writing on the calendar is there, but he said we never spoke. So things like this happen all the time. Last week, I texted him to ask if he could pick our child up after school, and he responded by saying yes. Well, he did not show up for our child, and when I asked him what happened, he said he didn't know he was supposed to pick them up, and that this was yet another conversation I had in my mind or with someone else. I showed him the text message, and he got upset and kept saying I was confused, and the conversation didn't actually happen, even though I had the text message and his response in black and white. I was excited that for once I hadn't messed up and that my memory was correct. I then suggested that I begin writing down notes or doing text confirmations about future conversations, since I feel he could be misremembering things as well, now that I have proof that it is possible. Well, he got upset and said he felt like I was trying to catch him making a mistake just so I could rub it in, and that I think I tell him things but I'm either talking to myself or having a conversation with a friend and thinking that it was him. I decided I was going to do it anyways, because the relief I felt when I had text confirmation was such a big deal. And yes, I get it. This could be a massive jerk move. Well, this morning, I reminded him of an appointment I had after work tomorrow, and that he would need to pick our child up at school. Well, as you might guess, he denied us ever speaking about it. I told him that I was 100% sure that we had talked about it at dinner on Friday night. Now, he could apparently tell that I was very confident and asked if I had recorded it or written it down, and I said I had taken notes, but only to keep my own thoughts straight. Well, he is not happy with me because he said he was not okay with me trying to trick him or try to catch him when we talked about it before. We got into an argument, and I ended up crying and threw away my notepaper I had written on. Part of me wants to continue for my own peace of mind, but I also want to be respectful and not do something if it makes him mad. It just felt so nice to not feel so crazy. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I do not think you're the jerk at all for trying to keep your notes straight, as well as trying to take notes of like who you did and didn't talk to about certain things. Like you said it yourself, you're very forgetful and sometimes you get things wrong with your memory. So I think this is completely reasonable just so you can keep everything straight. And also on that note, your husband sounds absolutely awful. This guy is gaslighting you left and right just to avoid any kind of responsibility in his life. Like this guy's using your memory issues as an excuse to try and like get away with stuff. He will literally look at you and be like, we never had that conversation. And this is even after you showed him a text message that basically proved that yes, you did talk to him about this, and he absolutely should be aware of what you guys talked about. He is gaslighting you to try and get out of responsibility, as well as just to feel superior to you or make you feel stupid or something like that. Like his intentions seem really sneaky and sly, and it almost seems like a vindictive dig against you personally. So honestly, the fact that he's now freaking out that you're taking notes means that he can no longer mistreat you in the future. Like that's the only reason he got upset. Not because you're catching him in his words, but because he can't now gaslight you into getting out of stuff. And I know that gaslighting as a terminology can get thrown around all over the place on the internet, but literally that is exactly what's going on in my opinion. Your husband sounds irresponsible, immature, and honestly, he really does not sound like a good father. Like this guy can't even be bothered to try and like, I don't know, pick up his kid after school. Like seriously, the fact that he wants to lie just to get out of that obligation is honestly really disturbing and just so disrespectful to you as well as your child. So truly, I don't think you're the jerk here. I think keeping notes with someone like this guy is probably a really good idea considering how he's treated you in the past. Because this guy would literally gaslight you and lie to you just to get out of taking care of his child. And in my opinion, that is absolutely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for ruining my wife's friendship after she borrows money from a friend that we absolutely cannot pay back? Here's what happened. So my wife and her friend had been friends since high school. They are pretty close, and she was a bridesmaid for our wedding. Recently, another friend invited them to go to Italy to their family's vineyard as their family was going to Spain for the month. So accommodations are free, but the flight, food, etc., that was all extra, and they left for 2 weeks. I was not aware of this trip until a month before it was supposed to happen. They booked it like 2 months out. Recently, I lost my job and had to go get another one. It pays around half what my job originally did, and before I was making about $120,000 a year, and this one is only about $66,000. My wife only has cashier experience and barely makes enough money to even make it worth it for her to work in the first place, since we do have 2 kids. My wife isn't the best with money. She does spend without thinking, and she agreed to this trip without telling me. She had to beg her mom to look after the kids after she said yes to the trip and her friends booked the tickets. Her mom is from another city and came to live with me for 2 weeks as I had to work and couldn't take care of them when I'm working. I was extremely mad at her, but allowed her to go as I know she's been depressed since the baby, and it was honestly way too late anyways. She asked her friend to cover her for the flight, and she would pay her back. I knew it was hard for us to pay her friend back, but it was a non-refundable ticket. She came back from the trip very happy until her friend asked for the flights. She had spent $1,400 on the trip, not including the flight, and her friend wanted the $1,200 that was the cost of the flight that she had put onto her credit card. Now, we only have $300 left in our account and already have credit card debt of our own. We are thinking of downsizing our house to an apartment, but it's hard because as soon as landlords hear that we have kids, they don't want to talk to us anymore. It really sucks, but I told her we can't pay her friend back until I get a better job. It has been 3 months since the trip, and her friend is getting angry because she promised to pay it back and we no longer have the money. It's not like her friend needs the money back. She makes 6 figures and has a house already. I mean, she is not even struggling. I told my wife we don't have enough to pay her back, and she will have to explain that to her friend. Well, they clearly did not have a good conversation, as her friend blocked her and told their other friend about her refusal to pay her back. She cried and is mad at me for losing my job. For the record, I was laid off and I had no choice. She's also claiming that I ruined her friendship by not pulling money out of nowhere just to pay her friend. Well, when she said that, I got mad at her, and I told her to get a job herself at night because I'm trying the best I can. So truly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Honestly, I can kind of see both sides of this, as to why you would and would not be the jerk here? I mean, for starters, it really does sound like she went on this trip without thinking about a budget at all. Like she couldn't even pay for her own plane ticket, and it really seems like she just didn't even care about the fact that you guys don't have a lot of money right now. You did downsize jobs, and that really does make a dent in your wallet. But also, when it comes to this friend, you absolutely should pay them back. It doesn't matter if they're rich or not, and it also doesn't matter if they need the money or not. $1,200 is a lot of money. I don't care who you are, and you all need to pay that money back because you do owe that to your friend. Like if I was the friend in that situation and 3 months have gone by and the two of you haven't made any effort to try and pay me back, I would be really upset and probably say some really mean things as well. Like you are not entitled to someone else's money just because you think they can afford it and you're somehow like jealous of their financial situation. There's just so much irresponsibility going around here, and honestly, that's not okay. So truly, if you really don't think you should have to pay that friend back, then you are absolutely the jerk in this situation. Am I the jerk for not being okay with my in-laws staying 6 days longer than we invited them for? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my husband's parents asked if they could spend Christmas with us. We said yes and that we are comfortable with 10 days, preferably December 20th through the 30th. I know flights can get expensive. They are flying in from out of state. So we said if they find better priced flights, that we could find some wiggle room, but they need to run it by us first. Well, 3 weeks after we said to come 10 days for Christmas, my father-in-law said they are coming for 16 days. And trust me when I say this, I am not happy. I thought 10 days was even a little bit too long and originally suggested 7, but now they just told us they are staying 16. For context, I get along okay with my in-laws. My mother-in-law has a mild case of having a personality disorder, which makes things interesting, and I feel like I have to walk on eggshells. She used to decorate my house with stuff she bought at a dollar store and Goodwill. I think she doesn't like her own home, and she thinks that it's fun to decorate mine, and I don't think she's trying to be disrespectful. One time she went through my nightstand and put nearly all of my husband's items in a Ziploc bag. When I expressed how awkward and uncomfortable this was, she said that she was just trying to do a nice thing. I have many stories like this that show a general lack of discretion or understanding, and this is even with the most basic of boundaries like going through my nightstand. It was humiliating to think that my mother-in-law did that. I just never thought that I would ever have to explain that because you know what? You just shouldn't do that. Now also, my husband's parents fight almost constantly, and this is not an exaggeration. There have been many times that I have to get my children outside and away from all the fighting because it gets scary for them. It's been a big problem, and even got to the point that we have them come out individually so we could enjoy them without all the contention. Now listen, I hear you. I know that's a lot of background information that I just gave you, just to give you an idea of how my in-laws really are. Now, because our house is large, they think that they are not in the way. They offered to get an Airbnb on the 6 extra days, but then they said they couldn't afford it. My husband goes back to work after New Year's, and my older kid goes back to school, and I have my 3-year-old and my 11-month-old with me. I'm fine leaving my kids alone with them for a few hours, but they don't do well with young kids for extended periods of time. I was happy to have them during the holidays, but now it's becoming not as exciting. They are very demanding house guests. For example, we just have to go to McDonald's, which is 13 miles away, every single day to go get my mother-in-law's special Diet Coke because I guess McDonald's uses twice the filtered water. Sometimes she asks to go twice a day just to get out of the house. And you know what? It's annoying because we have to plan our day around when we go out just to get the special soda for her. One time when she was visiting and gas was about $5 a gallon, she went to McDonald's 6 times in 2 days. And I finally asked my husband to say something. Like, all those miles really do get expensive and it does add up. They are getting older, they're in their late 60s, so I understand that young kids are taxing, so they can babysit for maybe 4 hours at a time before they need a break. We have looked for other flight paths and they don't have the money to pay for them. I'm just upset that they extended their stay without asking first, and now we even have to figure all this out. I know it's a first world problem, but stuff like this always seems to happen with them, and I'm sick of it. I wish I could be gone all day, but I have 4 kids, including a baby and a toddler, and I have a lot of stuff that needs to get done. My husband may be able to take some more time off, but we just set aside some PTO to be used for us to go on a family vacation. They usually come 3 times a year and stay 7 to 10 days, and we visit them once a year at their home. I suggested to my husband to just cancel and have them come out another time, and he said that while he knows it was rude, he feels bad telling them that they can't come to our home. home. We got in a fight and he said he'd do it, but that if something bad happens to his parents, like them passing away, he will always regret not spending time with them at Christmas. He says it would be nice if I could just have a good attitude about all of this. I have a wonderful husband, don't get me wrong. We are best friends and I respect him. But because his parents are so strange sometimes, it creates so much conflict. We have had a lot of wonderful memories made with his parents too, and they can be good to be around. That is why I was all for them coming around this year. I just feel it was incredibly rude to come almost a whole week longer than we said was good for us. And now his parents are mad for suggesting that they come another time. So honestly, am I the jerk for not wanting my in-laws to stay these extra 6 days? Because at this point, I'm so stressed out and I seriously don't know what to do. I've got to say right now that your in-laws sound awful. They literally invited themselves to stay longer than you were okay with. And that's really uncalled for in my opinion. Like seriously, you're gonna be a guest in someone else's house. You need to check with them first and make sure everything that you're doing in their house, as well as how long you're staying there, is in line with what they want. Because at the end of the day, it's their home. You have to listen to them. Now, when it comes to the mother-in-law and the father-in-law in this story, the fact that they're so contentious and they argue all the time is honestly a giant red flag. Like that is really not okay. They seriously can't act like normal grandparents for just a little bit of time. Like come on, if you're gonna be visiting someone, at least pretend to put on a happy face. Leave the drama at home. Nobody wants to deal with that. That's just like really awkward. Now, with all of that in mind, and everything that the original poster basically talked about in terms of things that they're not happy about, I really do not think that they're the jerk for being upset and put out that they're staying an extra 6 days, especially without talking to you first. Like that's what makes this entire situation even worse in my opinion. Like sure, you want them to stick around for the 10 days that they're gonna be here, and it sounds like the both of you are excited for it and you want that to happen. But for them to suddenly drop the news, oh, just kidding, we're gonna stay a little bit longer, all without talking to you first to make sure you can accommodate that, is completely unacceptable. I know if I was in your shoes, I would be telling my husband in this situation that he might need to use some of that PTO to help babysit the kids and basically take care of the kids in general, because his parents are clearly unable to do so. So hopefully this all gets worked out in some kind of way, because the way your in-laws are acting is completely out of line, and I don't blame you for getting upset in the slightest. My entitled job bullies me out of working there, treating me like garbage and undervaluing my contributions to the company. So I decided to get revenge by quitting that job in the new year while also refusing to retrain anybody in my department. And as a result, I ended up costing my job millions of dollars, and I've never felt better about getting revenge in my life. Here's what happened. So I started working in logistics at a company that builds things, and this is right when COVID was starting. When I started, we were 5 people in the team, but one of the guys quit soon after. This will be important later because it was a very good insight into how my department operates when they don't need or want certain people around. They will not outright fire you since they have to pay you a severance, but instead they will bully you into quitting. I saw pretty much the whole package, excluding them from meetings and important events, putting them down in public, lecturing them, never noticing any good work done, but always making sure that everyone knows about the work that isn't done well. My company would also drown someone in work and then start berating them when they inevitably can't keep up. It was outright childish at times. I didn't register it at the time, but it was a really valuable lesson later on. Anyways, I was put in charge of managing our overseas suppliers, among other things, and about half of our material came from overseas, most of that being from China. While it seems like a big task for someone new, it wasn't done out of malice. Genuinely, everyone believed we were going to get a guy in China for the Chinese supplies, and that I would be left for the handful of others. It really did seem fair, but we never got that guy from China, and I was left with all the overseas suppliers. Another important thing is that just in this project, the company had decided to change the workflow for overseas suppliers. This is because due to COVID, the price of shipping containers had exploded. Now, previously, the suppliers were responsible for filling our containers and bringing them to the harbor. We were responsible for picking them up from the harbor and then bringing them to us. However, due to demands and many other things, sometimes we needed 2 to 3 pallets of parts where a dozen or more could easily fit inside of a container, so we were shipping a lot of air. The new workflow would have the suppliers bring the parts to an external warehouse, one that was in the United States and one in China, and then we would load them into containers to get the containers as full as possible, and then bring them to the harbor and then into our plant. And we did it this way so we could rent as few containers as possible. Now, as you can imagine, this complicated things greatly because it erased the direct contact from us to the suppliers, and there was no official method for how we were going to keep in contact with the suppliers. We couldn't even tell them how many parts we needed or how to package them, or if we had any changes that needed to be requested. So I think you can understand how frustrating this would become. During that time, I was left mostly alone to deal with it, and I set up a system through a spreadsheet. It was mostly manual, rather simple, but it worked really well. It worked so well that one of the suits even chatted with me about it for a bit, since he wanted to make it standard in future projects. And also, this will be very important later on, as I was the only person who actually knew all of our overseas suppliers and their contacts. And I think some of you might be able to tell where this story might be going already. So during that entire time, nobody had actually bothered to ask me to explain to them how my system worked, or even where I kept track of all the supplier contacts. All of this data was hidden on slide 800 of some Excel file that I had saved in a folder titled Part Pictures, which was otherwise filled with pictures of different parts, so no one in their right mind would be able to find it. Now, moving forward, as COVID was really starting to slow down, the department, for whatever reason, decided they don't need me anymore. I have theories, but nothing's certain, so I will just leave it at that. But I pretty much saw precisely the same thing go down as I had seen with that one guy who left very shortly after I started. And what I saw was straight up bullying. I thought to myself at first that if I pull through and keep doing a good job, and I believe that I did a good job, they would eventually cool down. But they didn't. And after 2 months of that, I said, you know what, screw this, and decided to sit out and endure until the Christmas bonus that we get every single year. And then I would just hand in my notice. And also, I just delayed teaching anyone how my system worked until I was gone. And you know what? That's exactly what I did. I basically left without telling them a single thing. Eventually, I found a new job, and a month into working this new job, I get a call from my old job. It was the department manager. And to his credit, he was always a reasonable guy. He told me in plain words that they had no idea where to start with the Chinese suppliers. He then offered me my old job back with a very respectable pay raise, but I explained that I already had a new job. Well, fast forward to 2 days later, and I got another call where the same manager offered me many times my monthly salary just to come in for 1 week and instruct my old team in how my process functioned, introduce them to all of my contacts, as well as everything else that went along with the job. Well, I told him that I refused because of the way I had been treated by them when I worked there. He said that he understood and wished me luck in my new job and then hung up. Now, the whole reason why I'm writing this story now is that this week, I randomly got in touch with some people in the transport department from my old job. They mentioned that in the now 10 months since I left, the logistics department racked up 8-figure losses due to wrong deliveries, on top of over and under deliveries, outdated parts, some suppliers canceling their contracts, and new suppliers needing to be sourced. And best of all the blame fell on my old team. My new job is fine. It's not the best job, but I get to travel a lot and I get nice bonuses for it. And you know what? Sometimes I do look back and regret not taking that offer for a week as an instructor. But either way, I'm still so happy that I got to have revenge on my old job. Yeah, that's a crazy way to get revenge. Not only did you ice these people out and cost them literally millions of dollars in the process, but you also refused to go back to train these people for what sounds like a very large chunk of money. And that is honestly hilarious to me. Like, if these people really wanted you to stick around and train them, then they should have treated you better. And you know what? I can't stand when employers act like this towards their employees. Like, look, if I'm not doing a good job, or if you don't need me, just pay the piper and pay me my severance and then I'll leave. But to bully someone and treat them like garbage while also making the work environment like impossible to deal with, that in my opinion is the mark of someone who should not be in management. But you know what? The original poster, in my opinion, did it all correctly. They waited until they got their bonus, they got through the new year, and they said, screw this, I'm out of here. And when that company and department was falling apart, they didn't go back to try and save them. And honestly, that's like the best kind of revenge you could possibly want. Because these people were straight up bullies. They treated you like garbage and then thought they could come back to you in some kind of like plea deal to make you fix their problems. But honestly, they brought this all on themselves. And if they had just treated you a little bit better, they probably could have saved millions of dollars in the process. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled friend is demanding that I hand over items I purchase online, all because I posted it on my Instagram story, and she feels that she's more entitled to it than I am. But after dealing with her obnoxious messages, as well as her awful attitude, I decided to block her entirely. And now I'm wondering if I made the right decision, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So to start things out, yesterday on Instagram, I posted a picture of items I purchased from a small Black-owned business in my story. The small business owner always asks that her customers send pictures or videos to her of the items that we purchase and our honest opinions so that she can post them on her business page. And you know what? I did just that, tagging the business owner and stating in the Instagram story that the items arrived quickly in perfect condition and they smelled wonderful, while also stating that I can't wait to use them. So anyways, the business owner had a buy one get one free sale the week before last, prompting me to purchase these items with her. So I had a lot of items that I received, which were in the picture. Anyways, my friend by the name of Karen, that's not her real name, messages me in my story and says to me, pack up what you don't use and give them to me. And when Karen said this, I became annoyed, if not downright offended by this. So I told her, stop being greedy. I gave you several different gifts during your baby shower last week. I even told her that she should go get a job. Now I don't feel like that was wrong because she came off as so entitled. So she continued messaging me. She said to me, your gifts weren't for me, that was for the baby. And I just said to myself, wow, that is so disrespectful. A baby shower gift is a present to the parents for the arrival of their unborn child. How could anyone say that it wasn't for them? I spent over $150 on gifts for her, and the thing is, she never even said thank you. That is, until a minute after, and then she says, thanks for the gift, only to then continue by saying, you have 15 of these items, so why not just give some to me? I tell her to stop it with the entitlement, while also saying that I didn't post the picture for her on my story. And by the way, she's the only one of my Instagram friends who even commented on this. She continues sending me messages saying that the items I have will collect dust and that I should share it with her. She also said, who in the world would need all of that stuff anyways? Now here's the thing, I've never discussed my personal finances with her, so she's kind of assuming that I come from some kind of money because I work and I have income coming in, unlike her who doesn't work at all. Eventually, I just stopped replying, I muted her, and then today I blocked her. I would notice that during her pregnancy, she was alluding to things that made me assume that she thought I would financially cover her and her child, which I absolutely would not. This is partly due because her unborn baby's father is kind of there and then he isn't, and she lives at home with her mom. I would give her plates of food because she would see my posts about my dinner on my Instagram story and then ask me for stuff. She even demanded that I bake her desserts because my stuff tastes that good. Honestly, I felt so offended at the entitlement. I just don't know if I was hasty, but I felt annoyed because I went out of my way to give 2 large bags of baby shower gifts to her, and yet it still isn't enough. Like she acts as if I owe her something, which I absolutely don't. So honestly, did I make the right decision? I don't feel bad about it, but I wonder if it was the best choice, because right now I'm at a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, your friend sounds incredibly greedy. She is very clearly using you to try and get stuff out of you, and that is so unfortunate. Like, this is not a good friend. This is someone who just uses other people to get ahead in their life. Instead of getting a job and having some kind of income, she just saddles up next to her friends and starts demanding anything that they post on Instagram. Like, seriously, how weird is that? Here you are posting like some stuff you bought online, and then she responds in the comments and says, hey, give me some of that, I want some of it. Like, no lady, go get your own. Can you seriously not get a job here? Like, come on. So no, I don't think you did anything wrong. If I was in your shoes, I would have done the same thing, because she really was being incredibly entitled, and I definitely would never want to deal with that if I was in your shoes. My idiotic manager leaves me alone at a restaurant that I work at to not only bartend, but also serve all of the customers that come into the restaurant on a Saturday after 1 day of training. But as a result of literally not knowing what I'm doing at this job, I ended up breaking down and starting to cry as I was so overwhelmed by all that was happening, eventually leading to me never coming back to that job ever again. Here's what happened. So this happened to me about a week ago. I had gotten a new job as a bartender and server for Saturdays. In my interview, I told my manager that I had lots of experience in serving, but very little with bartending, but I was very willing to learn. Well, I got hired and they wanted me to start training on Friday. It was pretty slow that day, and I didn't get fully trained on everything, obviously, as well as making certain drinks, but it went well. Keep in mind, I also had to leave during lunch for a bit to pick up my car from the shop, so I wasn't even there for a full day. By the end of the day, my manager informs me that I will be all by myself the next day, bartending and serving. No hostess, no food runner, no busser. Literally, it was just going to be me. So obviously, I was really nervous. I was learning the point of sale system for the very first time, which was super confusing on my first day because the last restaurant that I worked at was cash only. They had a huge food menu, which I did not memorize one bit, and there were specialty cocktails I wasn't even shown how to make. I told her that I was nervous about working by myself on a Saturday, but she informed me that it shouldn't be too bad and I can call her at any time, and I will have help from the casino runner from downstairs. Well, fast forward to the day, and I go into work hopefully thinking everything will be fine. It was pretty slow for the first couple of hours, and I only asked for help a few times on little things. Then the lunch rush hits. I'm starting to get parties of 4 to 6 people walking in all within 15 minutes of each other. I was getting help with drinks I didn't even know how to make. I barely knew where anything was. I took forever putting in orders in the point of sale system because it was so new to me, and I was continuously getting my orders and tables mixed up. Most of my tables were waiting on drinks, and the rest were either waiting to order or just waiting for their check. Some of the cooks in the kitchen came out to yell at me in front of customers while I was trying my best to pay them out and get their drinks. When I arrived to the kitchen, I saw so many plates sitting in front of me waiting to be served. I then just broke down crying. Some of the nicer cooks were trying to help calm me down and were trying to tell me which dish was what, but that wasn't the problem. The problem was I had no clue which dish went to what table. I guess I accidentally rang in some orders twice. Some of them definitely were wrong, and the cherry on top of it is that I forgot you have to manually name all of your tables in the system before you send them off into the kitchen, which I definitely had forgotten to do. So the majority of the tickets just said customer 1, which literally could mean anybody. I just left the kitchen and went downstairs once again for help from the casino runner. She tried helping me as best as she could, but the damage that had been caused was pretty much non-repairable at that point, especially with just the 2 of us there. Now, I've worked some pretty horrifically busy and understaffed jobs before, but this was my worst nightmare come true. I tried the absolute best that I could with all the information that I had. I couldn't stop crying on the floor, and everyone was either looking at me with anger or pity. I was the most humiliated and embarrassed I'd ever been. I was eventually told to go home since I couldn't stop crying, and you know what? I never came back. This is one of the most popular restaurants in my area too, by the way. So when she said to me that it shouldn't be that bad on a Saturday, I should have said something right then and there, as she knew for a fact that I was new to the bartending and computer side of everything. And honestly, this was such a bad experience, and I seriously am so embarrassed. Yeah, that manager needs to be fired. Here you are on literally your first day, managing the entire restaurant by yourself. Like, this lady's a complete idiot for letting that happen. You don't know the system you're putting food into, and you don't know the bartending menu or even how to mix drinks. Like, seriously, what were they thinking leaving you by yourself? Isn't there some kind of, like, I don't know, probation period where they pair you up with another bartender or someone to train you for like 2 weeks just to make sure you can do something at this restaurant and be useful? Like, honestly, that lady's a complete moron for putting you through that, and you absolutely did not deserve that. The original poster also went on to say that apparently this is a seat-yourself restaurant, so it's not like she organized any of this in the first place. People were just walking in and sitting down. And you know what? In my opinion, dealing with all of that by yourself probably was a nightmare. Like, there's literally no organization, there's no sort of like structure to who's sitting where, and you have this entire restaurant to figure out on your own. Oh, and on top of that, you have literally no support from anybody around you. Not even the kitchen staff is stepping up to the plate to help out, with some of them actually yelling at you in front of customers. Like, that is so unacceptable, it's not even funny. So truly, I'm so sorry you had to deal with that, and I'm so glad you didn't go back to that garbage, because that place sounds like an awful place to work, and you absolutely did not deserve to get treated the way that you did. Am I the jerk for not telling my boyfriend that I own the building that we currently live in? Because after he found out, he is incredibly angry, and I now seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So when I was 18, my dad gifted me a house with 2 stories. I am extremely thankful, and we are not upper class, but my dad bought this house for a cheap price a long time ago. It was his grandmother's cousin's house. I know that this was an extreme privilege, and I am forever grateful for this. The layout for this building is like an apartment, but it is a house. So basically, each story has its own separate entry, as well as its own kitchen and bathroom. I live upstairs while I rent out the downstairs. My boyfriend moved in with me about 3 months ago, and we have been together for 6 months. I have not asked him for money, neither for utilities or to pay me any rent. The only thing he contributes to is groceries, and that's something that we split 50-50. I have not brought up that I own the building, as it is not something that I tell many people, and if people ask me, I of course tell them that I own it, but if they just assume I'm a renter, then they can believe that if they want. The topic of a landlord, the renter downstairs, or the owner of the building has not been something that we have talked about. This last Tuesday, the renter came up to tell me that her freezer has stopped working. I answered the door and my boyfriend heard us talking, I suppose. I went downstairs to take a look, and we came to the conclusion that she would buy a new one, send me the receipt, and I would give her the money. And she was very grateful for this solution. When I went upstairs, my boyfriend asked if it could be fixed. I told him no, but she was going to buy a new one and I would pay for it. He looked at me like I was crazy and asked me why in the world I would pay for her freezer. Well, I told him that because I'm her landlord and the freezer was there when she started renting, I would stand for the cost. He just asked me if I was serious, to which I said that I was. Now, once I told him this, he began screaming at me, asking me why in the world I would hold this information from him, while also saying that I was an evil person. I said I was sorry for not telling him, but I did not think that it would matter. He said he could not believe he was together with someone who was a landlord, that all of us just use people for money, and that the only thing people like me who are landlords care about is money, and would rather have people be homeless than offering affordable rent. Now, here's the thing. The downstairs apartment is 1 kitchen, 1 bathroom, and 4 other rooms, and I only charge $500 for rent, so that definitely is very affordable. Now, I understand that many people have had trouble with landlords, but I try my best to be a good one. He then demanded that I give him 50% of the money I make from rent, or else I was just as bad as he thought. So honestly, was I really the jerk for not telling him? He has not talked to me since Tuesday, and I have tried telling him that I truly am sorry, but he doesn't answer me at all. What should I do? Yeah, your boyfriend is literally trying to play both sides of the fence. This guy's trying to come at you and be like, oh wow, I can't believe you're a landlord. All you care about is money, while also implying that you're super evil for having property. But also, literally in the same thought, this guy comes to you and then starts demanding 50% of the supposed evil money you're collecting, and that if you don't give it to him, then you're just as bad as he thought. Like seriously, your boyfriend is an absolute jerk. Like think about it, this guy immediately started screaming at you the second he found out you owned the building. Like who in their right mind would react that way? That is such a huge red flag and such an extreme reaction. It's also really ironic that this guy would go off on some tirade and basically imply that landlords like you are making it so homeless people can't afford rent, but then turn around and this guy's living with you rent-free. Like what on earth is he grandstanding about? Like this clown just needs to go back to the circus. This is virtue signaling at its worst. This guy doesn't mean anything that he's saying and he has no idea what he's talking about. So I can confidently say that not only is your boyfriend a loser, but this guy is an absolute leech and the jerk in this situation. He's trying to take 50% of your money from this house while also claiming that you're evil for collecting it in the first place. And I just can't imagine dealing with that level of hypocrisy as well as putting up with someone like that in your house. My entitled, greedy maid of honor used money that was meant for my bachelorette party to pay off her credit card debt without anybody knowing. And as a result of finding out this information, I've decided to kick her out of my wedding, and I'm now being called a jerk by members of my family. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 23-year-old female, and I'm getting married in a couple of days. My maid of honor was in charge of planning my bachelorette party, which I wanted to be a surprise. We live in a city, but none of us live downtown, so I was hoping for a hotel room downtown and having a fun night out with friends, maybe a brunch or something like that. Most of the bridal party live locally, but 2 girls flew in just for this. When the maid of honor picked me up 2 weeks ago on Friday, I was excited to see where we were going and what we would be doing. Well, we ended up going down to her 1-bedroom townhome and spent the whole weekend there. There were 8 of us in total, so needless to say, it was cramped, and we kept running into issues with only 1 bathroom. On Friday night, we had games and ordered pizza. Saturday, we had a mimosa bar. We went shopping, ordered food, and watched a movie, all before parting ways on Sunday. And this was just not the bachelorette party of my dreams, or even a particularly fun weekend, but it was okay and I appreciated it. Last weekend, my fiance had just returned from a work trip. I had not caught him up to speed on the party because there really wasn't much to report, but when he returned, we were chatting and I told him about the party. He looked confused but said nothing else that evening. The next day, I got got a message from my maid of honor asking to meet up to talk about something. She revealed that my fiance had given her a significant amount of money over a year ago, with the intention that it would be used to pay for a bachelorette party. It would have been enough money to pay for the entire bridal party to do a week-long vacation out of town, including airfare, hotel, food, drinks, and a lot of fun. Now, for the record, I wasn't expecting this type of event. A weekend downtown would have been wonderful, and even though the party at her home wasn't what I hoped for, I was fine with it because I got to be with all of my friends. But that didn't matter much once I found out what she did with the money. Instead of using it on me having a good bachelorette party, she instead used the money to pay off credit card debt and hope that nobody would notice. I told her I needed some time to process this and I decided to go home. After talking with my fiance about it, I decided that the best action would be to remove her from the wedding. I came to this decision because I don't feel I can trust her and I don't want her to be standing next to me at my wedding. I slept on it overnight and I sent her a text saying this on Monday. Since then, I've been getting text messages from her mom and boyfriend telling me how awful I am for doing this since I didn't need a big party and my now former maid of honor was able to financially benefit from it. My own mother is also against removing her from the wedding as she's like a sister to our family and how she thinks it would be tragic for me to get married without her there. The rest of the bridal party is split, with half saying I shouldn't have kicked her out and the other half completely agreeing with me. My former maid of honor has called me crying because she already has her dress and she can't wear it anywhere else. Also, as a side note, my fiance and I paid for all the dresses. At this point, I want the wedding to be over with so I can be on my honeymoon and not have to deal with all of these people. So honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk for kicking my maid of honor out of my wedding after she stole the money that was meant for my bachelorette party? What should I do? This is insane to me, mostly because I can't imagine anyone being on the maid of honor side. Like, what she did is so unacceptable. It is literally theft. She didn't financially benefit from this situation. She stole money from your fiance and didn't use it the way it was supposed to be used. And from the sounds of it, it sounds like a lot of money. Like she was given a significant chunk of change. Also, you could have some kind of party out of town without having to drop any money on your own. Like, it doesn't sound like this was like a couple $100. If anything, it sounds like several thousands of dollars. And I'm thinking like somewhere in the 5-digit mark. And if it's seriously that much, and she really thought that nobody would notice and she would just get away with it, that in my opinion is so disturbing and so toxic. I mean, if I was in the original poster's shoes, there's no way I would want her at my wedding. This supposed friend and quote sister of the family stole from my fiance and used the money that was given to her for her own selfish needs. Like, I seriously just cannot fathom anybody defending this situation because this is so unacceptable. So no, absolutely not. I don't think you're the jerk in this situation. Your maid of honor is insane for thinking she could get away with this. So I don't blame you for getting away from her and deciding that she can't be a part of your wedding. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled manager demands that I stay late so that I can work overtime just like everybody else. And despite the fact that I was the best worker at this place, I decided to maliciously comply, essentially getting paid for doing nothing. And I've never felt better about sitting on my phone and doing nothing while everybody else was working hard. Here's what happened. Years ago, I was working a call center job for a well-known e-commerce site. We were first and foremost phone or chat customer support, but also would respond to customer emails that would come in the form of tickets. During the holidays, we would get absolutely wrecked with emails since people were doing their holiday shopping. The company would routinely understaff during the holidays and then require us to do mandatory overtime to compensate for the extra calls and emails we received. Now, as a note, we're in Texas, which is an at-will employer state, so this is totally legal, by the way, even though it's morally awful. Anyways, I was consistently one of their top ticket closers, averaging about 150 tickets a day, whereas some other employees averaged maybe about 70, if that. Mandatory overtime season rolls around, and my boss sends out an email that every employee will be assigned 25 extra tickets during each day of this week, and of which they're expected to stay past their scheduled shift time to complete it. During the workday, we were expected to close the same amount of tickets we would normally close, which is all outside of the additional tickets that we were assigned. Those tickets we would pick out of a shared ticket queue and assign to ourselves. Monday, I come in, I knock out the 25 tickets that were pre-assigned to me, and I go on my merry way closing the additional 150-ish tickets I normally normally close. I finish by the end of my shift and then I leave. I was the top ticket closer that day by a wide margin. My boss would leave at 5 o'clock, but would be checking our time clocks from home to see when we clocked out. Tuesday morning rolls around, and first thing, my boss pulls me aside for an impromptu meeting. My boss said to me, "I noticed you didn't stay late last night to complete your tickets like everybody else." I said to them, "Correct. I completed the assigned tickets in addition to my normal workload without needing to stay late, so I left." My boss then said, "Well, if you finished all those tickets within your scheduled workday, that doesn't count as extra work. Those tickets would count as part of your normal work week, which means you are in violation of our mandatory overtime policy." I respond back by saying, "Well, as you can see, I am the top ticket closer by a wide margin, and you can also see that I completed the extra work that is expected of me and then some. So what is the expectation going forward?" My boss looked at me and said, "The expectation is that you'll stay late like everybody else and do the extra work." Now at this point, I didn't feel like arguing much further, and things were getting a bit heated in this discussion. I then made it known that it didn't seem fair that I should be punished for being faster at closing tickets than most of my colleagues, and that I'm still completing the extra work while closing twice as many tickets as everyone else. We seemed to be at an impasse between my having finished what was expected of me and what was actually important to her, which was me being clocked in after hours like everyone else. I welcomed her to assign me an additional 25 tickets a day, bringing my additional total of tickets all the way up to 50, and this was because it seemed like 25 extra tickets was no problem to complete. I also agreed to stay late just to work on them. Every day that week, I came in, knocked out the extra tickets, and closed my normal amount of tickets, sometimes working through lunch as well. By the end of my shift, I had averaged around 200 tickets each day, and I then sat at my desk and did absolutely nothing on my phone for over an hour while still clocked in. I had a nice little bit of overtime pay between staying late and working through lunch. So I guess the moral of this story is that if you want me to work late, I'm definitely gonna work late. Thanks for paying me overtime to do the same thing I would be doing while sitting on my couch at home after work. It just goes to show that the efficient employees will always be punished with more work. Wow, that manager is a complete idiot. Seriously, why would you make them stay later if they did all their work? Like they did the extra 25 tickets. Why would you then have a problem with them staying late? In a perfect world, an employee like this would have been rewarded as well as given a raise or more incentives to keep doing more tickets. Like, why would you be like, "No, it's not fair for you to leave early because you did all your stuff. You need to stay late just like everybody else." Like, seriously, that's a massive waste of time and nobody needs that. Like, they're just lighting money on fire at that point. As this original poster said it best, they are literally just gonna sit there and do nothing on their phone. I bet you that manager only did that so they could use that as some kind of incentive to show to their manager that, hey, everybody's working late. Look at all these people staying overtime and doing their job. I literally think your boss was just trying to use you as some kind of pawn in their own game. So truly good for you for getting that overtime by doing absolutely nothing. Your manager sounds like a complete idiot, but in the end you got some sweet overtime pay, which hopefully made the entire experience of staying late well worth it. I broke up with my girlfriend because she was gaining weight, but now that she's lost weight, she has started to become attractive again, and I'm wondering if I should get back in a relationship with her or if I should just let it go and move on. Here's what happened. So about 2 years ago, I met a girl in my master's program by the name of Stacy. Stacy is not her real name. Stacy is one of the most amazing and intelligent people I've ever met in my life. Every conversation with her is exciting and interesting. She has such a broad array of hobbies, interests, and knowledge, and I feel truly thankful for every conversation I have with her. Not once in my life have I ever met anyone who I felt understood me like her, and I can honestly say that she might be the smartest person I've ever met in my life. She and I quickly hit it off and fell into a situationship that lasted about 8 months or so before we broke things off. At first, the relationship was great, and our energies matched pretty well. We studied and hung out together all the time, and I was happy. Stacy has an ADHD diagnosis, and when we first met, she was using a prescription that suppressed her appetite. Before her diagnosis, she was about 30 to 40 pounds heavier, and 4 months into the relationship, she had a medication change and started to gain back to what it seems like is her baseline before graduate school, all based off of old pictures. Now, I hate to say it, but her baseline before graduate school is heavier than what I'm attracted to. While she wasn't obese or anything like that, most people I think would say that she was a little bit chubby. I tried for a couple of months to get past it, but I started to lose interest in her, and I found myself declining in being close with her. I couldn't bring myself to tell her it was because of her weight. Stacy has a relatively bad attitude towards exercise to begin with, and I worried about about hurting her feelings and shaking that confidence she carried with her every day. We had also been dating for a few months, and I didn't feel it was fair for me to ask my partner to change how she maintained her body so early in a relationship. I started to make excuses when she would come on to me, saying I wasn't in the mood or that I was too stressed out, just avoiding to tell her the root cause. I hate to say it, but as this progressed, I also started feeling bad about going out in public with her. I like to think that I am pretty handsome. I mean, people compliment me on my appearance relatively often. I exercise regularly, I have some good muscle mass, and I do my best to eat healthy. A couple of friends mentioned to me behind closed doors that they felt I could do better than her. I started resenting her not valuing my effort in the gym, as well as her lack of value towards fitness. I subconsciously stopped touching her in public and started avoiding situations around the house where we could be closer than we normally would. I cited the stress of school as the cause of my withdrawal, and as a result, we started to fight more often. She is an explosive fighter and confronts issues directly and intensely, whereas I'm pretty avoidant and have a bad habit of not bringing up problems until they get really bad. We eventually agreed mutually to cut it off. I explained that our frequent and intense verbal fighting was too intense for me, and she vocalized that she felt she wasn't given enough attention and she wanted more physical time together than I was willing to give her, if you know what I mean. I felt like a complete jerk for letting her go without even trying to talk to her about the weight problems, as I feel we both missed out on what could have been a beautiful and lifelong relationship. Fast forward a year and a half after the breakup, and Stacy and I are still best friends. We talk every day and we fight seldom. We have both had a couple of flings since the breakup, but are now both single again. She has lost weight, and I am finding myself feeling attracted to her again. Now, I know I just spent the last paragraphs telling about all the bad things in our relationship, but it is a disservice to exclude the good. She is so charismatic and funny, she is interesting, intelligent, and overall an amazing person to be around. She is the kind of woman that leaves everybody that has interacted with her better than what they were before. In the months that I have known her, I feel I've grown more as a person than any time before in my life. And I really do think I made her life better too. I desperately want to ask her out and give the relationship another shot, but I really worry about things going back to how they were. What's more, I don't want to make her feel bad about her body again. She is an amazing person, and she deserves to feel happy and confident with the way she looks. I am assuming that the correct answer here is to let my feelings go and allow her to go find someone who loves her unconditionally, regardless of her weight. But I can't help but worry that I'm never going to meet someone like her ever again. I feel super guilty that something so shallow is the thing that is keeping me from someone I could have otherwise seen myself spending the rest of my life with. But a relationship where one partner isn't physically attracted to the other is not healthy. I recognize and accept that people age and nobody stays young and good looking forever, but I feel that losing that before your 30s is just too early. So now I'm at a total loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, this is seriously insane to me. You dumped this lady all because of her weight, and now that she's losing weight again, you're like, oh, wait a second, I want to get back with her. Like, seriously, that is such a selfish and shallow thing to do, it's not even funny. You would literally be throwing her back into another toxic relationship, and the reason why it's toxic is because of you. If I were in your shoes, no matter how I felt, there's no way I would go back into that relationship. I would allow her to move on with her life and not be so shallow that I would want to get back with her all because her appearance has changed. Like, seriously, I think you should just leave her alone. Like, I really think you're going about this in a really unhealthy way. And I think it's in your best interest to leave her alone and let her find somebody who's much better for her in the long run. My narcissistic father has told me that I will amount to nothing in life, mocking me and making fun of me, as well as treating me like garbage after I've sacrificed so much just to help him out in his time of need. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So to start things out, my dad is elderly. He's partially disabled as he walks with a cane and has mobility issues. And most of all, he is a narcissist. My mom passed away 2 years ago unexpectedly, and she was the single most person I was the closest to in my life, and since her passing, difficult has been an understatement. My dad treats me as though I'm disposable. I have helped him in every way possible. Within the last year, I basically temporarily have moved in to help him as he had health issues earlier in the year and was in the hospital several times. He was diagnosed with some level of heart failure and has kidney disease, which was maintainable until this year when it worsened a bit because of the heart issues that he has. I basically became his caretaker and took on this role even against my better judgment of how he has treated me over time. My sister sometimes helps, but not often enough to make a difference. She is not working at the moment, and my dad gives her money money to help her. In a lot of ways, he tries to buy her affection because she has taken space from him when he's been disrespectful in the past, so now he tries to do everything to get on her good side. However, with me, he basically treats me like he can say anything in the world to me. I've tried to set multiple boundaries, and it's been very tricky territory. I plan to move out, so I've been apartment searching, which has been difficult. However, in the interim, it's made things very difficult because I depend on him financially right now, since I basically put my whole life on hold to be his caretaker. So when he doesn't like a certain thing or being spoken to in a certain way, he basically then threatens to not pay me for the following month. For instance, it's almost the end of October and something happened today, and he basically said he's not going to pay me November 1st because he doesn't want my help. It's become such a toxic situation. Today, I came in the room that he was in, and he had put his cane directly on top of my laptop. I asked him to please not do that, and he then gave me immediately a very hard time and told me that I am always coming after him and telling him what to do. He told me that my laptop shouldn't have been there because that's always where he puts his cane. I tried to maintain a calm demeanor, but at the same time, I tried to tell him that I'm not coming after him, just to let him know when something isn't right. He doesn't like being told what to do, but at the same time, he has done things that are unsafe recently that I've had to tell him to stop. For instance, today he had spilled water on the floor and didn't notice it, I guess, which I almost slipped on. I told him he has to be more mindful around the sink. Also, he will leave his portable heater on even when going out, and so I told him that he has to turn that off for safety reasons. He told me that I'm coming after him and that he doesn't want me around. He doesn't want me to even talk, and he doesn't want my help. He told me that he isn't going to give me money on the first of the month and that he will do everything himself. There have been numerous times where he has threatened me like this before. It's honestly done mental damage on me to have to rely on somebody who can be so verbally awful. I've been doing everything to get out of the situation, and I continue to do so vigorously. I regret coming to help him because before this, I had my own life and my own finances and apartment. He told me I will amount to nothing in my life, that I'm so irritating to be around, and much more. It makes me feel incredibly emotional and incredibly alone. I know I should not believe the things he says because he is a straight up narcissist, but sometimes I react to what he says, which I can't do because he typically uses that and says to me, "Wow, look how emotional you're getting." Today, I didn't react in an emotional way, but I did tell him that this is not okay. He basically just kept on and then screamed at me to get out of his face. I'm honestly in a very bad emotional spot right now because of all of this. He makes me feel like I can't actually rely on him in any capacity, and that he is able to flip the switch at any point in time with my emotions. And now at this point, with all things considered, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, this is an awful situation. I'm just gonna say it, your dad sounds awful. Either he's grieving the loss of his wife, or he really is just a massive piece of garbage, and he seriously needs a reality check. Like, you literally uprooted your life just to help take care of him. You didn't need to do that. You easily could have looked the other way and done nothing about his life situation. I mean, this guy has so many health problems, it's not even funny. And the fact that he wants to act like this and treat you like garbage, as if you're some kind of punching bag in his life, is so unacceptable. It's just something that I would not put up with. So good for you for making the steps necessary so that you can get out of this awful situation. Look, your dad is not a nice person. He doesn't sound like a good person in the slightest. And whether he's grieving the loss of his wife, or if he is just being an awful person altogether, in my opinion, it doesn't matter. You do not need to live in this toxic situation. And here's the thing, if he really wants help and he needs somebody to help take care of him, he can use that money he was paying you and give it to an actual care worker who can give him exactly what he needs and still clock out at the end of the day. Because I'm willing to bet one day he's gonna look up and realize that he's alone. And hopefully he'll realize that he should have treated you a lot better. My entitled daughter is mocking and making fun of her brother after he got in a motorcycle accident and lost part of his foot and his hand, thus making it impossible for him to play Division I basketball in college. And after hearing her mock her brother relentlessly on the phone to her friends, I'm seriously considering not paying for her future college education. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a widow from a previous marriage, and so is my wife. She has a son who's 19 years old from her previous marriage, and I have a daughter as well. We dated for roughly 5 years before being married for 3 years now, and our kids have known each other since the beginning. No major fights or any weirdness besides getting to know someone else as a parent and a guardian. My son was a tremendous athlete in basketball, and I used to play in college at a school I'm sure none of you have heard of. Regardless, I know the ins and outs of basketball, and when he asked asked me to coach him, I was more than happy to. It turns out that he was good, really good. He was so good he could play in Division 1. My wife is a controller and I'm a pharmacist, and together we make a very, very comfortable living, but we're not rich. So when my son was getting scholarship offers for basketball, I realized we could pay for my daughter's college in full, and neither of them would have any student loan debt when they graduate. And this was a plan that I had shared with my daughter, which I think was a complete mistake to begin with. These plans changed when my son tried riding on someone else's motorcycle, all with their permission but with zero training. And as a result, he ended up getting badly injured on the ensuing crash. He lost part of his hand and his foot. It was not life-threatening, but basketball absolutely ended. This happened last year, and my son has been in a deep depression that we're desperately trying to bring him out of. But he feels like his entire identity got ripped away in the blink of an eye. He has been in counseling and prescribed medication, but it has not helped thus far. Recently, he confided in me that the pills he's on has unfortunate side effects, where he basically feels virtually no interest in anything. And because of that, he wants to stop them. I told him the important thing is that he's with us, but he can bring up that with his doctor on the next visit. Fast forward 2 weeks, and I'm upstairs looking for something in my room. I then heard my daughter talking to her friends on her phone about college. The conversation turned towards her brother, and she said the following: "I can't wait to be gone. I'm tired of hearing my brother cry every single day." She also said that his hand is gross, and that she knew spirits in the house had shifted since he became injured. And honestly, I didn't think that she felt this type of way. I was gonna talk to her later about this, but then I heard her say the following: "I heard him say that he can't even get up anymore." And she said this all while laughing. And when I heard that, I was absolutely furious. I stormed into her room. I took her phone, her laptop, I took her car keys and the TV out of her room. I told her she should be ashamed of herself for how she's talked about her brother, and that he might do something permanent if he heard you talking about him like that. When my wife got home, we talked about what happened, and while she's proud of the way I stood up for my son, she thinks it's too far to also not pay for college, since we could easily do so as well. So honestly, would I be the jerk if I don't pay for my daughter's college? I am simply so heated over this situation, and I honestly don't know what to do. First and foremost, the way your daughter was talking about her brother is awful. Her brother just lost part of his hand and his foot. Like seriously, that is not something you want to joke about. This literally just happened, and the poor guy is taking medication so he can try and feel better, all on top of seeing a therapist. Literally, his entire future got taken away from him. The fact that she thinks that that's funny and that she can make fun of that in some kind of way is so toxic and unbelievably disturbing. I'm sure she wouldn't be feeling that way if it happened to her. Now, with all that in mind, and all the horrible things that she said, I do think that it would be an overreaction to deny her any payment towards college. Here's the thing, you can absolutely still punish her. Take the phone away, take the car away, take away everything you possibly could. But in my opinion, taking away that college education is not okay. I personally think that's taking things a bit too far, and I just don't think it's going to serve anybody well in the long run. So yes, I don't think you should go about that plan. I think she definitely needs to learn respect, but I don't think that should be at the cost of her education. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I messed up by not cultivating my friendship with my best friend from high school, and now she's incredibly upset, and I'm worried that I've ruined a good friendship in my life. Here's what happened. So as the title states, I absolutely loathe myself for ruining the best friendship I've ever had. I met my best friend, let's call her Sarah, that's not her real name, when I had shifted schools mid-high school. We instantly hit it off and became extremely close. I used to go to her house frequently and vice versa. I had a hard time attending school, but she always used to be my motivation to wake up and get my stuff together. I would also like to add in that I was in the worst mental decline during that time. She immensely helped me during breakdowns during my classes, always looked out for me, and was just the greatest friend a person could ask for. She too was going through some major stuff, and I tried to be there as much as I could. She was the type of person that was honestly so mature when handling things, and honestly, I love her to death, and I still do. You see, Sarah was the type of person who didn't have many friends, but was well acquainted with pretty much everybody. She had opened up to me about things she hadn't even told her long-term friends of 16 years, and I was honestly happy that she felt comfortable enough to share it with me. My favorite memory of my schooling is honestly walking with her till the bus to drop her off and give her a hug and say goodbye. Now, this is where I messed up. After my last year of high school, gradually my side of communication started to lag behind. She inquired about it, and honestly speaking, that time came up with a lame excuse of being busy with college preparation. Slowing my side of contact was barely there. But the thing is, even though I talked to her rarely, in my mind she was my best friend, and I would talk fondly about her to everybody that I meet. I told people how great of a person she is, and would honestly gush about her to everybody. She called me out multiple times for not calling and texting, or even if we were texting, it wouldn't go beyond me simply saying hello. Over months we talked like never, and whatever plans were made to meet up, I would cancel due to some issue or another. I had gotten into university in a different state, and before leaving, I met up with her. She expressed to me how she would never forgive me for causing her this pain, and from her side, she would remain a friend to me, but was no longer hers. I told her I would maintain contact with her when I leave, but she frankly told me that if I couldn't do that while living in the same city, she highly doubts it will happen when I change states. And honestly, I miss everything about the girl. I want to rekindle this friendship, and I want one last chance, but I don't think that would happen. I don't want to cause her much pain. I regret this every day, and everywhere I go, I'm reminded of her in different people or activities. There is not a single day that goes by that I don't think about her constantly. I know I acted awful and I wasn't reliable, and my actions were understandably pretty bad. I just don't know how to go about it at this point, and I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, I really do understand where you're coming from here. I've experienced this on both sides of this situation. I've been the friend trying to reach out to somebody else, and I've also been the friend that somebody else has tried to reach out to, and both situations really do suck. Here you had a great friendship, you were doing a lot, and then suddenly all contact kind of just slowly fades away. And unfortunately, just from personal experience, that kind of happens after high school. You think you're gonna have these lifelong friends with some of these people, but it just doesn't happen. That's not always the case. There's plenty of friends I keep in contact with from high school, but overall, what you're experiencing is more common than you think. If you want to try and rekindle the friendship, I would just go ahead and apologize to her. Just be completely truthful about what's going on. Tell her that you'll make more of an effort and then make the effort necessary to keep this relationship going. And this is definitely going to require some work. I mean, your friend definitely has a point. You do live in a separate state after all, and if you want to find success in this friendship, it's definitely going to require a lot of hard work. Am I the jerk for choosing my wife over my brother's wedding at the last possible second? Here's what happened. So for a bit of context, I'm a 36-year-old male, and I'm married to my beautiful wife who's 28 years old. We've been together for 8 years and married for 3. I also have a little brother who's about 25 years old, and both my parents are 55. Recently, my brother's getting married on Friday. I was supposed to be a groomsman, but I didn't go and stayed home with my wife. Now, here's some context as to why I made that decision. During the wedding planning, my precious wife found out she was pregnant with our first baby. Of course, we were over the moon, but kept it on the down low to not take attention from my brother and his wife. Well, a few weeks ago, our precious little girl was born, and though she is a little doll, we suspect she has colic, and she has been crying non-stop. I was still going to go to the wedding, but when the day came, my wife was very stressed out and couldn't get our little girl to sleep or do anything really. She wouldn't sleep, eat, or even stop crying, and would keep going until her little face was red. My wife was exhausted, you could really tell. So I decided to stay and try and take care of my daughter while I tried to let my wife sleep. I called my brother to let him know that I just couldn't make it, and he flipped out at me. He was yelling and screaming, calling me every name under the sun. So when he started doing that, I just decided to hang up. Not even a few minutes after that, my parents were blowing up my phone, calling me a jerk for bailing on the wedding. When I tried explaining why, my mother said to me, "Who cares? It's the wife's job to take care of the kid, not the men," which is not true at all, by the way. After I still wouldn't budge, my parents told my family, leading to some family members to blow up my phone some more. When my wife found out, she was apologizing over and over again, but I don't think my wife should feel bad for needing a break. I have since blocked the family members who were scolding me, and I've gone low contact with my brother and parents until things calm down. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, this is a really sketchy situation because I can see both sides of this. For starters, I totally understand where you're coming from. Your wife just had a baby, and the baby is not doing well. They're crying, they won't go to sleep, they won't eat any food. There's a lot of things that you're trying to deal with, and your wife is exhausted. So I understand your desire to say, okay, I need to take a step back and try and help my wife out in some kind of way. But on the other side of this, I think the way you went about doing that was really uncalled for. I can kind of understand where you're brother's coming from and why he would be so mad that you're bailing out at the last second on the day of the wedding. I mean, that is beyond rude. That is seriously so messed up, and that would really make me very angry if that happened to me. You're supposed to be a groomsman at this wedding. You can't just bail on it like that and not expect some kind of backlash. Now, that's not to say that I don't understand where you're coming from. I mean, you wanted to support your wife and your baby, but like seriously, you left your brother out hanging dry. That is seriously not okay. Now, don't get me wrong, the comment from your mom is absolutely insane. For her to be like, wow, the wife is supposed to watch the kid. Like, that's such an awful way to think about raising kids, it's not even funny. But regardless of what she said or anything like that, I really think it was an awful idea to bail on your brother at the last possible second. Like, there was no kind of like lead up to this. You couldn't have said something in advance to try and set something up. It really seems like you waited until the last second and said, sorry, I'm not gonna show up. Like, what are you doing? You promised you would be there. This is not some casual get together. Your brother is getting married and you're one of the groomsmen for the wedding. Honestly, I think with all things considered, I think the fact that you dropped out of the wedding at the last second while also not even trying to find a babysitter while your wife got some sleep, that in my opinion was incredibly uncalled for and really does make you the jerk. You could have called a babysitter. You could have called somebody to watch your child so that your wife can sleep and you can still fulfill your commitments. Because guess what? At the end of the day, you were committed to your brother's wedding. And to not show up in the way that you did, honestly, was an awful thing to do. My boyfriend and his family all think that I'm ugly. And even though I really like my boyfriend, I'm now at a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I first want to say that I hesitated to share this, but I just need to get this off my chest. I'm a 28-year-old female, and I started in a new relationship with my boyfriend. He's incredibly handsome and truly a wonderful person. Things have been going well as we've introduced ourselves to each other's families. That is, until an incident that happened yesterday. I was at home working on a project while he visited his nearby grandparents. When he returned, he shared what he thought was a funny conversation with them, but it turns out his aunt had seen us while we were grocery shopping. Now, I had never met this woman, and my boyfriend didn't notice her, but she described me as a girl who seemed nice but was really ugly. His grandparents, who I've also never met, went on to suggest that she might have been shocked to see him, a handsome guy, with someone like me. He told me this story all while laughing, which really hurt, and when I asked how he responded, he simply said, well, I told them that you're very nice to me indeed. This has kind of shattered my self-esteem, to be honest. I've been working on my self-confidence in therapy for months, trying to love and accept myself, and now I feel like all that progress has been in vain. I'm crushed thinking that my boyfriend, who I thought found me attractive and desirable, somehow agreed with their sentiment. I feel unwanted and absolutely terrible. I realize I'm fortunate to be with him, as he is a 9 and I often feel like a 3 on my best days, but I always hope that he would find me desirable regardless. I don't want to create unnecessary conflict due to my insecurities, so I'm just sharing my feelings here, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. This seriously sounds awful. Like, I can't imagine being with someone and considering them my partner in life, and then they turn around and agree with their extended family that no, you're not good looking. Like, this guy didn't even try to defend you. He just said that you're nice to him and something along those lines. Like, what in the world is happening right now? Does he even love you in the first place? Because what you've described really does not sound like love at all. And you know what? I don't think this guy's a 9. He might be a handsome guy or something like that, but it's clear that his personality and his soul is absolutely a 1. This guy did not stand up for you. He didn't come to your defense or honor your name in any kind of way. He let his aunt and extended family basically trash you. He let them call you ugly and then laughed about it while retelling the story to you. That does not sound like a good person. He does not sound like this Mr. Wonderful you're claiming to be. His personality and dismissive nature is a massive red flag. Honestly, I'm kind of blown away that he even told you about the exchange in the first place. Like, if somebody said something awful about somebody I loved, especially somebody I was in a relationship with, I would tell them to buzz off and back off. I wouldn't then go laughing to my girlfriend and be like, oh man, you're never gonna believe what my extended family said about you. Like, that is honestly so unacceptable and you do not deserve that. So truly, your boyfriend does not sound like a very kind person, because he is letting all of this slide. And any boyfriend who actually cared about their girlfriend would have stood up for you and said enough is enough. My entitled sister-in-law constantly makes me watch her child anytime I have any kind of get-together with my extended family. And now, as a result, I feel entirely left out, completely ostracized from the rest of my extended family, and left alone with a kid that isn't even mine. And I'm so frustrated by this, I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what what happened. So first of all, I just wanted to get this off my chest. I've been with my husband, who I'll call John for the sake of the story, for over 4 years, and we dated long distance the entire time. Well, we finally brought an end to it last month when I moved in with him and his parents. His parents are incredible and I love them. John has one older sister who I will call Emily. Emily has a husband who I'll call Joe, and they have 2 children, a little boy who I will call Leo and a little girl who I will call Amy. I have met Emily and Joe only a handful of times, despite visiting them in the past at least once each visit, and now that I've been living here the past month. In each instance, Amy and Leo are always there because they are just so young. Leo is approaching 3 years old and I love him to pieces. He is sweet as can be and imaginative. I truly love playing with him and making him laugh, but with all that said, there have been some issues. I knew when my sister-in-law was pregnant that I would never get to have a real relationship with her. It saddened me, but I was overjoyed that she was finally getting the family she dreamed of. Since creating her family, I have the strong impression from Emily that having Joe, Leo, Amy, my husband, and their parents around, she feels like her family is complete. She's happy, and she doesn't need anyone else in the equation, and that means that she doesn't need me. Let me be clear, Emily is sweet and kind to me and has never been mean or rude. There have, however, been minor issues between us. 2 examples are of her being jealous of my wage and the other of her having a fight with my husband when she over-inserted herself by asking imposing questions about our plans for the future. After that situation too, by the way, she made out that she might not actually attend our wedding, but in the end she ultimately showed up. According to my husband and his mother, Emily has a darker side. She's jealous, selfish, and only wants the spotlight for herself. Truthfully, I can see the hints of this. I have this feeling that she wants my husband to be happy since he is her brother, but she doesn't see me as part of the family. Rather, I'm a tool to ensure a portion of her family's happiness. Emily hardly ever asks me questions. In the entire time I've known my husband, I think our longest conversation was truly like 5 minutes, and I have spoken to Joe even less. When there are family get-togethers, Leo wants to be with me and to play with me non-stop, and they just let him. This results in the entire family getting to speak, relax, as well as bond together, while I have to entertain their son for hours on end with no break. I don't get to participate in the discussion, let alone listen to anything that is said, especially because Leo likes to play in different parts of the house while the family is all gathered in the living room. It's like this whenever I go to visit my sister-in-law's house. Leo only ever wants to play with me and me alone. Nobody else can ever be involved. Clearly, she must accept me to some extent to trust me to play with her son, but she also won't interact with me at all. She expects me and my husband to also pitch in with her family, but never does she ever offer to return the favor. We walk her somewhat neglected dog very often, and my husband and their family have even built a massive extension on their house, but they never paid them for that. At any time where I'm around Leo, even for just a quick visit, I become his one-woman show. It may also be worth noting I'm significantly younger than my sister-in-law, and I'm younger by about 10 years. With the attention always on Emily's life and her needs, it feels like the entire family revolves around her. Honestly, I feel so iced out, and I feel like I'll never really be a part of the extended family at all. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, I completely understand where you're coming from, and I just don't blame you for feeling left out. When it comes to Leo, in my opinion, I would say hi to the kid, I would give him a big hug, and then I would go join the adults and spend time with them. Listen, you are not that kid's nanny. You do not have to be dragged off to have playtime for hours on end just so mom and dad can do whatever they want, and all at your expense as well. Like they literally are treating you as some kind of nanny or some kind of like babysitter when you definitely did not sign up for that last I checked. So I think if anything, it's time to start asserting yourself. And this doesn't have to be any kind of like slight against you or anybody else in the family. You can literally just say, no, I don't want to play right now, and then bring that kid back to his mom. And guess what? If she doesn't like that, then she can get up off of her butt and take care of her child. Because guess what? It's her kid, not yours. At the end of the day, you are an adult. You have every right to sit with the adults and not let this kid drag you away from them. And your sister-in-law has no power over you too, by the way. It doesn't matter that she's 10 years older than you. You are an adult in this situation, and you are under no obligation to babysit Leo. An entitled Karen gets violent at a haunted house that I worked at, all because she didn't want to follow the rules. And as a result, she ended up getting kicked off the property, all while humiliating herself in the process. And I've honestly never been more stunned by somebody's entitlement in my life. Here's what happened. So I've been working in haunted houses since 2019. It's a job I look forward to working every single year. However, between the chance to make people scream or laugh or generally just freak out without any repercussion, it's honestly a good time, and I still have the chance to put some of my safety training to use. For example, if you're 1 foot in the door and sobbing, you are clearly not having fun, making you a risk to yourself and others, so it's part of my job to pull you aside while my room 2 partner entertains the rest of the group. I break character, I calm you down, and I explain for starters that everyone here is an actor and nothing can hurt you, and also state that there's no shame if they can't move forward, because we want you to have fun. We offer you the chance to stay or go, and ask if you would like a member of staff to wait with you if all of your friends are going ahead, so that you're not standing alone outside. Of course, for safety's sake, we have several rules. No children under the age of 12, no bad substances or alcohol, no cursing or foul language, which is a tricky one, because obviously if you get freaked out and you start swearing, that's pretty normal, but cussing out one of our actors is absolutely not okay. And these are just basic things to keep in mind. We have also minors that work here, so we ask that people please just be nice. But there's one rule that we have, the one that gets constantly ignored, and is possibly the most dangerous, is to not touch anything. We have fragile props and electrical equipment that you could break or even hurt yourself on. Also, the actors are people, and you could hurt them as well. And we as actors can't touch you either. And we do it that way because we don't want the liability. For the most part, it's a good system. However, we do get the occasional freak out punch thrown our way, and we have codes in the haunted house to hold our guests in one room to give management time to make sure any laid out actors don't need some kind of medical assistance. Now, all this setup is to say that the job is a lot of fun, but it does come with some potentially high stakes physically, mentally, and emotionally. However, because they know this, management has given us essentially a blank check to call them to remove guests who are behaving poorly. Now, in any case, last night was the final night for haunting for the season. It started more or less as normal, and my partner and I were bopping right along, sending people through, warning the people who needed to be warned, etc. Overall, it was a pretty reasonable and calm night. That is, until everything devolved into chaos. It started with a group of 5 teenagers, full of boys and girls, somewhere between the ages of 13 and 15. They seemed normal. The only thing that we noted about them was that another girl came in a little belatedly, then went back out to come in with her mother and another girl her age. We didn't really think much of it. We sent them on their way and then brought in the next group. The mother in the following group was, surprise, surprise, our Karen for the evening. Now, she didn't look like it much, and this was right up until she decided to touch one of our props with her umbrella. It was raining after all, and there's no coat check, so she got to bring it in. So overall, she didn't act like she was going to be a problem, but because she was touching things, she got the same dressing down that everyone else got by my partner. The character was a hothead, and she yells at you for rule violations. It's part of the act and the best way to get people to listen and follow rules usually. However, this entitled Karen decided to push her luck by walking over to my partner and putting her umbrella against my partner's collarbone. My partner yelled at her to not touch her, because of course she did, and Karen looked absolutely livid, spitting out a disgusted phrase of saying, "Are you serious?" When she was told yes, that this wasn't a bit, and that her behavior was unacceptable, she started to storm out, taking the girls with her. My partner and I followed. After all, we assumed she misunderstood. We attempted to explain that she could go through, she just couldn't go about touching things or people. Now, before I go any further, here's a bit more background that you need to know. Room 1 is a bit more like a long, double S-curve hallway. It's got corners you go around, and there's places for the actors to stand, sit, crouch, whatever. But it's narrow. 2 people might be able to walk side by side, but they'd have to be pretty little. Now, I myself, personally, I'm a pretty thick woman. I'm not going to get into the details, but that's just the honest truth. If I stand correctly, I can easily fill that whole walking path. My partner is also decent sized, though not as large as me. The Karen in question is about my partner's size, but almost a whole foot shorter than me, so she's barely scraping 5 feet tall, if that. Suffice to say, there wasn't a lot of room, but in spite of us 3 being larger people, I had space to step back and let her through. However, as she huffed around to prepare to go by me to go back into the haunted house, she raised both of her arms and body checked me into the wall, a purposeful passive-aggressive shove. So I screamed at her. I raised my voice as high as it would go. I told her not to touch me and that she needed to get out right now. This Karen looked at me in shock, as if I was out of my mind. How dare I speak to her like that? How could anyone be so rude in front of her children? But my partner backed me up, and the Karen left with a quickness, taking her child with her, just in time for us to get a code red rum from upstairs. The code red rum from our haunted house means that a guest has become violent and punched one of our actors. I found out later that the group of teens associated with the lady pushed one of our minor actors to the ground and punched her in the face. Now, this actress was already nervous to be there, partially because of the acting, and also because the house is actually haunted. Whether you believe in that or not, it can get kind of freaky. So I can only imagine how she feels right now. Hopefully I'll see her next week and make sure that she's okay. While my partner went to check on the injury, I did a little damage control outside with the line, thanking our guests for their patience and also asking them to continue as such because of the emergency. In spite of the cold and wet, most people were happy to wait so we could make sure our actor was safe. So I know what you're thinking. What happened to the entitled Karen? For starters, she went to our ticket taker to complain. Our ticket taker, bless her heart, called one of the two owners over to talk to her. Of course, she lied after my partner got her side of the story out, saying she never even touched her, claiming that all she touched was the skull on the desk. But she slipped up and admitted that she just rested the umbrella against her chest. And that was more than enough for our manager to call her out on her lie. She also came back later and tried to complain to one of our maintenance men, saying that we, my partner and I, were rude to her. And this maintenance man, just like the ticket taker, ended up calling one of the owners. And obviously, real shocker here, she got the same owner, who essentially said to her, "I'll talk to you, but let's take a walk first." And apparently, her youngest daughter also called the maintenance guy a complete jerk during this process as well. So it looks like she takes up after her mother. The police ended up not being called, but my partner and I are split about what kind of future we wish for her. Personally, I hope she has a come to Jesus moment where she realizes that she's being a massive jerk and turns her life around. But my partner hopes that she suffers a lifetime of watching everyone else around her get everything that they wanted, while she just gets left behind. Either way though, the rest of the night was fine, and I'm already looking forward to next year so I get to do this one more time. Wow, that is a crazy situation. Like, I can't imagine coming to a haunted house and having this bad of an attitude. Like, why show up at all if you're gonna be aggressive and start doing things you know you're not supposed to do? Like, that just takes away from the fun of the haunted house in the first place. If you're prone to stress and you're just a massive jerk, then maybe you should just stay home. Like, it's really okay not to show up if you're gonna be a jerk. No one's gonna want you there in the first place if that's how you're gonna act, and everyone's gonna have a better time if you don't show up. I'm also willing to bet that this entitled Karen absolutely would have used that umbrella to hit somebody in the head. I mean, sure, it was raining outside, and she brought an umbrella to try and stay dry, but I'm absolutely convinced after the way she acted previously that it would have taken one scare for this lady to raise that umbrella and start swinging it around like some kind of sword at these actors. I mean, she already hockey checked the original poster. Who's to say she wouldn't try and do that halfway through the haunted house? But regardless, good for the original poster for standing up for themselves. This entitled Karen's behavior was absolutely unacceptable, and hopefully by next year this lady doesn't show up again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My best friend is blaming me for her boyfriend cheating on her, claiming that I wasn't a good friend in believing her when she said that her boyfriend was cheating, and that it's all my fault and that she'll never forgive me. And now at this point, I don't know if I'm the jerk or not, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So to start things out, my best friend has long suspected her boyfriend of almost 8 years is cheating on her. We are 22, and nearly everyone in our friend group kind of thought she was being a little bit crazy because her boyfriend seemed like a great guy. So we always just tried to talk her down, tell her to trust him, he's in a busy program at work and things will get better. Well, she was heartbroken when he told her that he had fill-in duty as a cop on Saturday night and couldn't do the couple costume she planned for them. I got invited to a party hosted by a coworker last minute on Saturday and told my friend it would be good for her to just go and get out instead of doom scrolling. So we went, and it was a huge party, and we didn't really know anybody, but we had a blast dressed up at the last minute as a bunch of vampires. At about 1 o'clock in the morning, her boyfriend sort of just appeared in the crowd, and when I saw the red football jersey, my heart sank, because about a minute later, a girl dressed up like Taylor Swift came up and went ahead and held his hand. My friend saw it, and she immediately ran for a bathroom sobbing. In the bathroom, she went from pleading with God that this isn't real to straight up just having rage and then back again. I told her we needed to leave, but she said no, telling me that she had to confront him. I then asked her if she's going to confront him. Was she going to do something that would end her up in jail? She looked at me and said, well, maybe, and I could tell that she was serious. I said to her we had to leave, but she said no. I told her to wait and I went to find my coworker just to try and help me make her leave. We ended up dragging her out and she made such a scene that her boyfriend finally noticed that she was at the party and he took off like a scared rabbit. We got to the house and she started pounding shots, so I grabbed her keys and tried to get her to go to bed, but she kept screaming about how everyone's ruining her life, including me. Finally, she fell asleep, but she woke up hungover and angry that I didn't let her find out what was going on. I said we knew what was going on, this guy was absolutely cheating. She then called me a horrible friend for not believing her for the past few weeks, and I said I was so sorry, but she said I'm a major jerk for making her leave because she could have caught him in the act and then made a clean break. But I said that she was scaring me with how she was talking in the bathroom. She said she's an adult and can make her own choices. She then said it's going to be a long time before she can forgive me, and then she left, and I think she blocked me on literally everything. I honestly feel bad for the whole situation, and I feel bad that I may have made the wrong decision. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I do not personally think you're the jerk at all. Like seriously, you were removing a drunk friend who was upset and was not handling the situation well. Like when you asked her if she was gonna do something that would end her up in jail, she gave you a maybe. And it's like, I'm sorry, that's not one of the answers. Like the answer is either yes or no. It's not you saying, well, I might hit him in the face. Like that's unacceptable. I'm sorry, that is not okay. If a friend of mine said that, I would probably do the same thing and be like, okay, we gotta get you out of here. And also, it's not like the boyfriend didn't see her getting dragged off as it is. Like he knows for a fact he's in deep water and he has no way of getting out of this without getting in trouble. Like this guy screwed up big time. There's no good excuse for his actions, and obviously he was completely cheating on her. Like this guy literally showed up to the party dressed up as Taylor Swift's boyfriend. Like come on, how could you possibly do that? Now when it comes to you not believing your friend about her boyfriend cheating, honestly, who could have predicted this? Like this is not your fault, by the way. Your friend is clearly upset about the situation, so it seems like she's trying to blame you for all of this happening. Like listen, even if you did believe her, this guy would still be cheating on her. And it also sounds like at the time that she didn't have any proof that he was cheating. So it's kind of weird for her to be like, wow, I knew he was cheating and this is your fault. Like what are you talking about? Whether the original poster believed you or not didn't change the outcome. Any reasonable friend would be there to listen to their friend, but also try and help them see that maybe they're not cheating. Let's look at the silver lining or something like that. I know that if my friend came up to me and they didn't provide any evidence that their significant other is cheating on them, while also adamantly claiming that they are cheating on them, I probably would have done the same thing. I would try to talk them off of the emotional cliff that they're currently walking on, because there's no point in wallowing in all this weird self-hatred, all because of something you're not sure of. And sure, I get it. Her suspicions at the end of the day were confirmed, but that's not anybody's fault. Nobody could have predicted that, and honestly, the fact that she's blaming that on you is honestly so toxic, and you don't deserve that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for yelling at my friend after she kept saying that she was poor, despite the fact that she lives a very privileged life? Here's what happened. I'm a 23-year-old female and I'm disabled and I live on a pension. And I have this friend who's 25, we'll call her Lily, that's not her real name, and she is also on a pension. We have very different disabilities, but the specifics aren't really relevant here. In our country, there's a program that helps fund quality of life type of stuff for disabled people. Stuff like transportation, social activities, etc. I'm not eligible for this program due to not being a citizen. I migrated as a toddler and applied for citizenship at 18, but was denied because of my health status. But on the other side of this, Lily does use this program. We have different life circumstances. I live alone, not by choice, while Lily lives with her parents and does not pay for her own living expenses. We get roughly the same amount of money from pension regardless. Lily invited me to an escape room this week, and I declined because I can't afford it. She said it was fine, and that she understands how hard being poor was because she had spent over $100 on plushies and couldn't afford to do other activities that she wanted to do before she got paid. She says stuff like, oh, I'm just so poor, and other stuff like that a lot, and I usually let it slide, but this time I just lost it. I told her to stop saying that she's poor. I also said that until the food bank employees know you by name, you can't say anything about being poor. I said a few other things that I can't quite remember, but regardless, I did not sugarcoat this. She is now upset with me and wants me to apologize for being a jerk about it. I get that she's not rich by any means, but I feel like her acting like she's on the same level of poverty as I am is also a jerk move. I'm definitely a bit jealous of her lifestyle being better than mine, all due to the circumstances, but I don't begrudge her of any of that. I just wish that she wouldn't compare overspending on hobbies to not being able to afford medical bills because you decided to eat that week. I can't tell if she's being childish childish and insensitive, or if I'm being a huge jerk. She's a lovely person other than being a bit sheltered, so I don't want to lose our friendship over this fight, and I plan to apologize for being harsh about it, but I don't think I'm in the wrong here. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Like, I totally understand where you're coming from. She is better off financially and she keeps complaining about being poor, but in reality, you're the one that actually knows what it's like to be poor. You've had to choose between medical bills or even eating that week, and I can completely understand why you would get so frustrated. And sure, you had an outburst, and maybe there's a situation where you can apologize for screaming at her, but also explain that the way she was talking really upset you, and it seriously hurt your feelings about the way she talked. Like, she is incredibly privileged. She has all this stuff going for her, and she's seriously gonna sit there and pretend like she doesn't? Like, that's honestly insane to me. So truly, with all things considered, I don't think you're the jerk. I don't think you did anything wrong, and honestly, your friend is being incredibly awful. Am I the jerk for not wanting to pay for unnecessary food and other items after my girlfriend bought a bunch of these things on a whim? Because at this point, my girlfriend is furious that I'm not willing to pay, and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I live with my partner in the United Kingdom. For rent, bills, and groceries, we split the cost 50-50. My girlfriend tends to go grocery shopping with her parents when they go, and this is a way for them to spend more time with them. I offer to go, but she says she's fine going. We make a list prior to her going and have a budget that we try to stick to. And sometimes it's hard if food goes up in price, but we both understand that that can happen, and we're both fine paying a bit more due to the increased prices. The problem I had last week is my girlfriend went shopping with her mom and ended up buying a lot of things that weren't on the list. Now, some of this was for both of us, but it was still things that I did not particularly want, and some of it was just for her. She then told me the price of the shop, and it was about $25 more expensive. We do our grocery shopping every 2 weeks, so if she keeps shopping like this, it will be an additional $50 a month, and I don't think that I should be paying for that. I told her I didn't really want to pay the extra just because she decided to buy a lot of things that were not on the list. Well, she got annoyed and mentioned that most of it was for both of us, but I just pointed out that you can't buy something for someone else and just expect them to pay without asking them before getting it. She said it's unfair to expect her to go over the complete increase because it might have her short on money this month. I just repeated that I shouldn't be expected to pay more because she saw something extra that she wanted. I said that she should have just called me out before buying them to check if I was okay with it, and she said that she shouldn't have to run every purchase by me, but I just said that if it involves my money, then yeah, she absolutely does. She got annoyed and said that we were supposed to be a team and that I'm being incredibly selfish. So am I the jerk for refusing to pay more for the grocery shopping? What should I do? Honestly, I can kind of see where the original poster's coming from. It seems like money's really tight, so they can't afford to make all these unnecessary purchases and still be expected to pay for everything that comes along with it, especially if they didn't want it themselves. The original poster actually went on to say that it was a lot of stuff that was unnecessary. It was food that they don't eat and alcohol that they don't drink, as well as skincare products that the original poster absolutely did not ask for. Like, it sounds like this is just a bunch of stuff the girlfriend wanted, and now she's trying to make the boyfriend pay for it. But guess what? Money is not growing on trees right now, and from the sounds of it, it really seems like even $50 extra is going to be biting into this person's budget. So truly, I don't blame them for getting upset and being like, wait, what are you doing? I can't be expected to pay for this, right? So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I think you have every right to decide what you do and don't do with your money, and it really seems like your girlfriend is not respecting that. My fiance told me that he's going to be spending Christmas with his family overseas, and once I found out that I wasn't invited, I felt so hurt and absolutely shocked, and now I seriously don't know what to do. My fiance and I have been together for 4 years. He was born and raised in the United Kingdom, but moved here 8 years ago. I'm from the United States, I have no children, and I plan to marry him next summer. Today, while eating dinner, he casually tells me that he's going to England for Christmas. I was completely blindsided and surprised by this information, as it is the first I've ever heard of such plans. I was not extended an invite, and he told me that he made the plans ages ago, and that the trip is in 17 days. He has one nephew who's 3 years old, and a large family in the United Kingdom, so I understand the desire to visit. He has no family in the United States, and I have a very small family of about 3 people who live 3,000 miles away in California. I had such an enormously sad and surprised reaction, not only because I wasn't invited, but also because I essentially realized I would be spending the day alone. For the past 4 years, we've celebrated Christmas in very intimate yet special ways. We splurge splurge on fancy cheese, roast a duck, and decorate a tree. Each year, I search for a special ornament that ties to a moment that we had or some kind of inside joke. We even dress our cats up with bow ties. Another reason why I find this decision to be heartless is that I'm fairly new to the area that we live in, and although I know some acquaintances through my industry that I'm in, I don't have any friends that I'm close to that I can spend the day with. I love Christmas and would consider it my favorite holiday, and this is all because of traditions. I am so upset and I can't sleep. Should I go to California and be with my borderline toxic mother just so I'm not alone? Should I stay home and roast a duck for the cats and I? Should I go on vacation and go surfing? Honestly, I'm so hurt by this and I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, this is so unacceptable. Like, this guy's your fiance, right? He really should be able to communicate when he's going out of the country to visit family. Like, it really blows my mind that he wouldn't try to invite you and bring you along. Like, that really does seem super sketchy, and that is so unacceptable. You two are getting married. There's really no good reason for him not to invite you. So truly, I'm so sorry this happened. Your fiance is completely out of line for not inviting you or even letting you know about this, because now you're gonna have to spend Christmas alone, and there is no one to blame for that situation except for your fiance. My toxic entitled mother is threatening to evict me from her house, all because I'm finally refusing to take her garbage anymore, and I'm now deciding to stand up for myself. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So I have a pretty manipulative, entitled, and toxic mother. I nearly passed away at birth, but thanks to the doctors that helped me, I ended up living. At first in my life, I had major behavior issues due to mental and physical disabilities, which included pitching fits and biting people. This was mainly in elementary school, and I slowly grew out of it, only having slight relapses in high school, unfortunately. I was picked on a lot and ended up growing to be extremely awkward. What made it worse was the family dynamic, where most of the time I was with my mom and my stepdad. When he passed away is the earliest I remember my mother changing into this mean and spiteful person. She was verbally awful towards me, including yelling and cussing me out. She would manipulate me whenever I tried to stand up for myself, and was all out awful towards me to the point where I became depressed and at times got very unwell mentally, causing terrible things to happen to me. And I didn't know why I felt the way that I did. I was confused and scared at times and ended up growing to have high anxiety. I never had a job because of it, but I did whatever I could to make up for my joblessness. I'm 22 now, and I have attempted to get a job a lot through the years, but I've been unable to find one that best fits my disabilities and that I can do, though the constant anxiety has made it more difficult. Now, just to give a list of the slight things that I've done for her, I do my regular chores such as taking care of the cat, doing the dishes, taking the trash out, etc. I would do minimal things as well, such as cooking or making almost every meal, helping her with whatever she needs, as well as giving her drinks and making her lunches occasionally. I would literally do everything she asked of me the best I could. I did mess up a lot, and she would let me know immediately when I did, which often led to her talking bad to me in some kind of way. I ignored it for the most part and took the punishment of being yelled at because I knew it was my fault. It was always my fault. I slowly came to realize through extensive research who she was, finding out about toxic relationships and manipulation through various means. I still battled at whether I was wrong or not because I was prone to forgetfulness and misunderstanding things easily. Then it finally happened. I started going to a family member about it on my dad's side, and one by one they started telling me their experiences with her. I was so happy I wasn't alone anymore. So happy that I had people to go to about this without being afraid. What made it better to some degree is that due to some struggles, my brother and his girlfriend had to ask my mom if they could move in. They got to see that I was right, as not even a month in, she showed her true colors. I ended up learning a lot from them, which was never easy to listen to about her. She lied to them, often made rude comments, and would talk in a self-righteous tone. I started paying attention more when I did something for her to discover how entitled she really was. I started attempting to stand up for myself, calling her out for things that she did against me. I mainly only talked to her about her tone and how she doesn't use basic manners like saying please or thank you. I left the insults alone, seeing that if I couldn't get her to talk to me without some shred of dignity, without a constant spiteful or entitled tone, then why would I try to fight against such insults? All this arguing made me exhausted, but when she threatened to backhand me in the car and left me roughly half a mile away in 80 to 90 degree weather without so much as a drop of water or my cane, I ended up eventually giving up on our relationship. Because before then, even after everything that I've heard, I still was desperate to save our relationship. relationship. I was hurt, I was betrayed, and I needed to get away for a few days. And so I ended up contacting my friend and stayed with her for a weekend. And when I did that, everything changed. I didn't know that what she did was illegal, but apparently I was considered a vulnerable adult due to my disabilities. And if I didn't have money or my friend, who knows if I was going to have a heat stroke and pass out or flare up bad enough where I couldn't walk. 2 weeks ago, I also had an ear infection, which made me go to the ER. I was in horrible stabbing pain with an ear so swollen that it was completely shut. I mean, I couldn't hear out of that ear at all, which was a really weird experience. Every day during the ear infection, she would push me to do things, especially with making breakfast at 6 in the morning. Well, I made it clear to her that I wouldn't do that while I had this ear infection, but I did make her coffee each morning as that didn't involve a lot of standing. She kept saying she would do the dishes, which in turn piled up during the week due to my inability to stand for long periods of time. I was suffering from vertigo after all. Instead, she would come up with excuses such as using her arthritis and saying that she didn't know when my brother and his girl would be home because they shower when they get home, despite her absolutely having the ability to just ask them. I ended up spending 3.5 hours doing the dishes after I was healed enough to do so. It was torment that could have easily been avoided if she didn't lie. And yeah, I made it clear I was upset at the way she treated me during the ear infection, but she didn't care. Then this week it finally happened. A moment I hoped I was just being overly anxious for. I finally broke. All that I have mentioned so far was only the tip of the iceberg, and the bird became heavy enough that I lost my ability to care what happens. 2 days ago, she came back from a short trip and expected the supper the couple only bought for them and me. Immediately, she starts complaining about the steak not being done the way she likes it and makes me microwave the steak. So I just shrugged it off and moved on, while also going to sit down afterwards with my food in a chair. Now, I usually would sit on the love seat, but there was a pile of clothes I didn't feel like dealing with. So I sat in a seat a tiny bit further away that was just an old recliner that we had, but I didn't care because I was still eating with my family. My mom, however, really did care, and she snapped at me to get up and move the clothes so that I could sit next to her. And this was also shortly after she went to the kitchen for something and said out loud, "Would everyone stop acting like they're better than me, please?" Now, when she demanded that I sit next to her, this prompted me to say in a low voice, "You do not have to talk to me like that." Now, when I said that, she responded with something slick that I just ignored because I really wanted to move on, except the way that she snapped at me made my anxiety spike. She noticed immediately after I sat down and asked if I was okay or if I was sick, as if she didn't just snap on me and deflect me defending myself. That's when I got up with my food and told her I'm sick of her attitude as I left to go calm myself down in my room. And this was also in front of the other couple as well. I turned on a show on my computer, something funny to calm me down and try and wash the anxiety away. Unfortunately though, the peace was short-lived as my mom came into my room and tried to force me to talk to her about what happened, blaming this on her period and asking what my problem is, even though I had already made it clear multiple times why I was upset at her. I told her that I don't want to have this conversation, and I attempted to put my headphones back on, making it clear that I would like to be left alone. She decided to sprawl both of her hands on my laptop to close it, which I realize now that the reason she did it that way was to prevent me from accessing my laptop and force me to face her. I got up and said I wasn't dealing with this, taking my food and phone to go outside. She then grabs my arm, which startles me, and makes me drop my food, which results in us yelling at each other. She tried her best to corner me in my room as I tried to get away from her and make her leave me alone. That is, until I eventually walked out with a full-blown anxiety attack. Luckily, my brother came to my rescue and helped calm me down and sneak me back to my room, which very ironically made her worry that I was out at night and threatened to call the police on me since I was a vulnerable adult after all. I eventually let myself be known that I was home because I didn't want her to get the police involved. I absolutely refused to talk to her. However, even if I did, she would just manipulate and ridicule me. I didn't want to deal with that anymore as my mental health could no longer take it. I was broken and I needed to be apart from her. Despite me making it clear to her that I need space, she still insisted that I talk to her about what is expected of me. We have been talking over Gmail, and even on there she's being awful and manipulative. And now she wants me out of her house, saying that she's gonna send an eviction notice when I have nowhere else to go. But I'm refusing to give in. She infiltrated the one space I was supposed to feel safe in and came across as threatening. I was and am right now so done. She is now using everything in the book to try and make me feel bad, including calling me awful and saying that she has a bruise, likely from when I pushed her out of the way to get out of my room, and even going as far as to say repeatedly that I'm mentally ill and that I'm also violent, and that she feels threatened when she was the one who got in my face, grabbed me, and cornered me. I'm honestly so done, and seriously, at this point, I don't know what to do. Honestly, this is so unacceptable. She is treating you like an indentured servant and basically making it so you have to do everything around the house. She's gaslighting you, she's manipulating you, and now she's becoming like physically aggressive. That is seriously not okay, and I can only imagine how awful this must be. Now, with all of that in mind, I think it's time to get some kind of help here. Maybe researching some kind of like adult protective services or some kind of like family service. Like, you clearly qualify as a vulnerable adult, and the person you thought would be able to take care of you is clearly treating you like garbage. So maybe it's time to try and get that process going sooner than later. I know if I was in your shoes, I would be looking to get out of that house and move out of there. And sure, you don't have a job and you don't have a lot of things set up in your life, but I'm pretty sure there's people who can help you in this situation. So honestly, I really hope this all works out for you, and hopefully you are able to get away from your awful mother. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for signing away a house to my baby mama even after finding out that she put me on child support? Here's what happened. So I first want to start off by saying that the mortgage is in her name, but she put my name on the deed when our son was born. We were pretty much in agreement that it was her house. 4 years later, and I keep our son on the weekends. Well, 3 months ago, the baby mama lost her job. She had me sign a piece of paper that said, in handwriting too by the way, that I no longer live at this address because she can't get public assistance unless she has proof that we don't live together. My girlfriend, who works in child support, says that she's trying to put me on child support. The baby mama had always said that she'd never do that, but then my girlfriend showed me the statuses and I ran this by the baby mama, but she said that she withdrew the application when she found out. Weeks later, the baby mama says that she can't get mortgage assistance unless my name is off the deed. My girlfriend says that something seems a little bit off. Well, I signed the documents anyways, but my baby mama told me the signature wasn't valid, so we agreed to meet again just to re-sign it. The morning of, my girlfriend says to me, I just got an email that a letter addressed to you from the Department of Social Security is on its way. So I text the baby mama. She says that she got a call about it and was gonna tell me about it this evening, and says it's probably just a notice and that if she wanted me on it, she would have done it by now. Well, my girlfriend says that she is BSing and explicitly tells me not to sign the deed over. She says that I need to file for 50-50 custody. My girlfriend then tells me to call the Department of Social Services ASAP. My girlfriend then texts me an hour later with a voice memo from a representative from Public Housing Assistance saying I do not have to be off the deed for the baby mama to get mortgage assistance. So I call the DSS back and I find that the baby mama deliberately went and submitted the child support application. My girlfriend tells me to stop all contact with the baby mama and that this is now a legal issue. But none of this was consistent with what I knew about the baby mama. I called her up and she admitted to everything, but said that she didn't know about not having to have me off the deed. She said she is only using public assistance until next week, and then she's revoking the child support case. But none of that explained why she had to have me off the deed, nor why she deliberately put in a child support application. I stated that because I don't need to be off the deed, I will wait to sign it over. She then hit me with the following statement. Oh, so now you're trying to withhold my house from me? And you know what? Knowing her, if I upset her by not signing it, she would just keep me on child support permanently. So I signed over the house. My girlfriend argued that I shouldn't give up the only asset that may help pay off the child support one day. I asked my family and coworkers and they disagreed, saying trusting her is my best option and that it would be best to sign over the deed to keep the peace. My girlfriend said my baby mama controls me and that I am spineless and that I had no reason to give away the only asset I had. She even went all the way to say that she felt betrayed and that I chose to appease my baby mama over protecting our household finances. We have been fighting all weekend and I genuinely feel like I did the morally right thing, as well as the only thing that'll make my baby mama drop the child support case. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, first and foremost, it seems like your girlfriend is accessing stuff she's not supposed to access, especially for the mother of your child. Like, that sounds incredibly sketchy. That was like the only thing going through my mind when I read that. Like, she's very clearly literally going into these files and being like, wow, she's about to do this to you. And that's like really weird. I would not want to know that information, let alone be around somebody who has that kind of information and uses it for her own good. I don't know, maybe this stuff is like public information and I might be wrong, but from the way this is described, it sounds really sketchy. But honestly, this is a messy situation. It sounds like the mother of your child really is some kind of like basket case who would probably go above and beyond anything you would expect just to get money from you for your child. So I kind of understand where you're coming from, where you're like, okay, just take the house, I don't want it. But also with that in mind, in my opinion, you absolutely should still be paying child support. Sure, get your name off the deed, do whatever you gotta do there. It's not your house and it's not your asset. But you know what? You absolutely should be supporting that child. It is yours after all, right? So honestly, it really seems like everybody is being shady from like all angles. Your girlfriend is all up in your business, the mother of your child is doing really sketchy things, and it seems like you're trying to get out of child support by giving over the house. And that, in my opinion, is seriously not okay. My boyfriend hasn't paid me back yet for a trip we have planned, but also still wants to go on an expensive family trip that he cannot afford. And right now, I feel so totally lost, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend and I moved in together into a condo last year after having 5 years in a long-distance relationship. He has a higher salary, but I work 1 full-time and 2 part-time jobs to make it work, which probably makes our income very equal. Now, this is his first time having to pay rent, so the world of budgeting is very new to him. Most months he is living down to the last dollar in his bank account. He has thousands of dollars in debt, unfortunately. We split rent and groceries 50-50, but I pay for all of the electricity and water bills. I don't have a lot of savings or day-to-day money either, but my extra job makes it easier. I also pay for most of our fun stuff, such as concert tickets or even a movie pass. Basically, if I want him to do things with me, either I pay for them or he won't be able to afford it, and I love spending time with him, so I really don't mind. I want to make things less stressful for him, even though we're all stressed out about money these days. Now, we have not been on a trip in almost 4 years, and the last time we were, it was with his family, and it was honestly horrible, but that's a story for another day. This year, I wanted to go somewhere, just me and him. It would just be for a couple of days over my birthday next month. Well, a few months ago, we discussed it, and I presented him a budgeting plan outlining how it could work. And what I planned out was basically the cheapest flights and accommodations that I could find. He agreed that it would be doable as long as I didn't expect a birthday present in addition to the trip, which of course I was completely fine with. So with all that in mind, I booked the trip. Almost as soon as it was organized, he started complaining and stressing about the money and how he could afford to do it. But it was too late and I couldn't change his ticket. He was miserable for weeks and it made me feel so sick. So I've paid for it all so far and have not asked for anything yet. He told me that he secretly wished a hurricane would happen just so it all would be canceled. At this point, I'm upset, and I've even told him that he doesn't have to come along, and he honestly is considering it. Anyways, it's been a nightmare, but a few days ago, his family sprung on him that they were planning a resort trip in January, and they wanted him to come along. And the cost will be over quadruple what our little trip would cost. He initially told them that he couldn't come, but now his sister is texting him, saying that he should try to make it work, and they'll lend him a bit of money if that'll help. Now the thing is, there's no way they'd be giving him enough that it will even come close to the trip cost. He'll end up stressing out like crazy and maxing out his credit card, and even then, I don't see how he'll have enough. But when I told him it's not a good idea, he got so mad at me and said I wasn't supportive. He said he's going to try and make it happen no matter what, and he wants me to come along too. Now, I'm so confused and I don't understand. He hasn't paid me for anything regarding our trip yet, and truly does not have the funds to float towards his family trip, which requires a down payment very soon. I mean, for someone who caused a huge fight over our trip, he sure is dedicated to making this one happen. I mean, I seriously could start crying. I pay for everything we do, covering thousands of dollars this year, and he is leaving me to pay for my birthday trip all by myself. But in the end, he can still find the money for this other trip that's only 2 months away. Honestly, this is so hurtful and it's so unacceptable, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, talk about incredibly shady. First and foremost, your boyfriend hasn't paid rent and he's what, 31 years old for context? Like seriously, what has he been doing his entire life? Like, I'm not trying to make fun of him or anything like that, but that's honestly incredibly surprising for me, and I can't believe that he's gone that long without paying rent. Also, in the scope of your relationship, it really does not sound like anything is 50-50. Like sure, you're splitting the rent and the groceries, but you're also paying for the electricity and the water bills. Like what is he doing with his extra extra money. You guys make the same amount of money, correct? Like, it seems like he's taking advantage of the fact that you're willing to pay, while also complaining that he doesn't have enough money to do anything. Like, where is his money going? And also, he only works one job. You work one full-time job and 2 part-time jobs just to make things work. And that's the only way for your income to be considered equal? Like, seriously, this guy is not doing nearly enough to try and help out in this household. At least that's my opinion. Like, it really seems like he's taking advantage of you because he knows that you will pay for it. And the other reason I believe that is by the way that he's reacting to this trip that you planned out. First and foremost, I think it was a massive mistake to pay for all of that right up front without getting something from him, like some kind of money or some kind of transfer into your account. That way he can be committed to this trip and not try to weasel his way out of it like he's trying to do right now. Like, look at the way he's reacting to you planning this out. It really seems like he's so upset that he has to pay you back that he's now beside himself and he doesn't know what to do. That is such a weird way to go about doing this, and it's so strange that he would get so upset about this trip. And obviously, it's not about the fact that you spent that money, but I really think it's about him not wanting to pay you back. That is honestly what I think is going on here, and that is so unfortunate. And that even connects with his family going on this trip randomly in 2 months. So he's not willing to go on the trip with you, but suddenly, all of a sudden, 2 months from now, he can somehow get the money necessary to go on a trip with his family? Like, what is going on right now? Like, this really seems super sketchy, and it doesn't seem like he's being honest with you. Like, I'm starting to think he has a lot more money than he's letting on, and he's just letting you, someone who's overworked and undervalued, just take care of all the logistics of a trip that now he suddenly doesn't want to go on. And I'm sure at this point, you know his finances. You know for a fact he can't afford this trip with his family all of a sudden out of nowhere. So for him to be like, yeah, I'm gonna go on this trip, it's fine. In my opinion, that's a massive red flag, and that is seriously so unfair to you. So truly, your boyfriend is being a massive jerk right now. He blatantly doesn't care that you're working 3 jobs, and he's also being incredibly lazy and entitled about his money. And in my opinion, you absolutely do not deserve to be treated like that in the slightest. An entitled Karen gets me in trouble with corporate after she blatantly lies to them, claiming that I accused her of trying to steal from our store. And despite the fact that I had proof that this entitled Karen was just trying to get me fired, my managers refused to believe me, instead choosing to take the side of this entitled Karen. And I've honestly never been more frustrated and angry in my life. Here's what happened. So we all love stories where Karens discover instant karma, but sometimes these Karens have lasting effects on our lives. And my story is one such situation. Let me explain. This was when I worked in retail. I was a self-checkout host, and my job involved engaging with the customers by providing assistance when needed. I would answer any questions, like if they needed help finding an item or anything like that, as well as correcting price issues when possible. My other duties involved my presence being a form of theft deterrent. If the self-checkouts had no host, more of the dishonest types would be encouraged to bag and go without paying. I'm not saying it doesn't happen still, but I once prevented a would-be thief from cashing out a $100 item as a 50-cent trinket. I think you get the idea. Now, this one Karen who was a regular took particular offense to me doing my job. I remember her because she would come in every day with her entourage looking like they dyed their hair with acid every week. Their hair was always different colors and looked like they dyed it in the dark. For whatever reason, she simply just didn't like me. She would always have an attitude with me and even accuse me of profiling her just by standing there and doing my job. And so as a result, I eventually just stopped greeting her. Well, one day I got called into the office and written up because a customer had written a letter to corporate complaining that I accused them of theft. Now, it didn't matter what I said on the matter because according to corporate, they have to believe that their customers are telling the truth. So you may be wondering, how did I know that it was the same Karen who didn't like me? Well, one of my coworkers told me they overheard the Karen complaining to her friends that I didn't get fired on the spot and still had my job. Even with my coworker's statement, I still couldn't get the write-up removed. Management looked poorly on me, and every attempt I made to move up the pay scale was overlooked despite my years with the company. The ones I trained, though, they would get promoted. Eventually, after all was said and done, I decided to leave the company, and I'm still blown away that this entitled Karen got away with this. Wow, what an awful manager and corporate system. The fact that they would automatically believe a customer as if they have any idea of what they're talking about is incredibly insane to me. The phrase, "the customer's always right," is never right. It hasn't been right for like 100 years. People really suck nowadays, like seriously. I seriously can't imagine running a company and running a store and having that as your policy. Like, talk about a surefire entire way to make everybody in that company lose confidence in their managers. And this situation is no different. Even with another witness basically backing up the original poster's statement, it still wasn't enough to stop these stupid managers from writing them up. Like, this other coworker literally said, yeah, this lady's trying to conspire against the original poster. And even with all of that in mind, corporate's just gonna be like, sorry, they're probably still telling the truth. Like, what are you talking about? No, they're not. They are clearly lying and just being incredibly weird. So truly, I'm so sorry you had to deal with this. This is such an unfair situation overall. And honestly, I'm just glad that you don't work there any longer, because you would probably still be trying to work your way up the ladder, and these people would probably still be trying to keep you down. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I've had some horrible recent customer service experiences at the restaurant that I started working at, and now I'm at a point where I'm considering quitting and going to work somewhere else because things are just getting so bad, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I have recently started working at a mid-range chain restaurant. My previous serving experience was at higher-end restaurants and events, but this is just different. Lower-tier restaurants also means lower-tier customers, and my god, is this draining me in every possible way. My first bad experience happened a few days after finishing my training. I was quite upset immediately after, and since it was the first table of the day, it kind of ruined the whole day for me. The customers weren't necessarily unhappy with my service at the time, they just weren't clear about what they wanted and then placed the blame on me. For example, they have let one of their children pick what they wanted to eat, and I confirmed with the parents that they agreed, but fast forward, and when the food got to the table, they asked for the manager and said that this is not what they ordered, which is a complete lie. There were a few other instances like this as well. Customers for the most part dined for about 30 to 40 minutes, hardly ever longer than that. Well, these people were at my table for 1.5 hours, and then they didn't even leave me a tip. Now, as I said, I was a bit upset, but I got over it, and I chalked it up as inexperience on my part. Today, I got another customer that I thought was a bit out of line. When I dropped the check at the table, he started schooling me on what he thought I did wrong, how he's been working in the service industry for a long time, and he was a server and a bartender, so he knows the ropes, and he had me at his table for 5 minutes giving me a lecture. I just nodded, apologized, and just let him talk. He ended up putting a tip in, but then failed to sign the paper. I got the impression that he did that on purpose, just so I wouldn't actually get his tip, since it's impossible that someone that worked in the service industry wouldn't know that they need to sign the check. I had some really great customers after that who definitely made up for that one table. Now, my manager is really great, sweet, and kind, and I was always made to feel included and looked after. Well, today, the manager was acting a little cold towards me, but I didn't linger on it too much. Well, once I got home from work, everything kind of changed. Now, I don't know what came over me, but I decided to look at the reviews for my place of work, and when I checked it out, there was one review that was specifically naming me. They weren't complaining about bad service on my part, but they claimed that I was trying to flirt with her husband and ignoring her. I honestly wanted to cry. I know who left the review, and it's so unfair that I can't reply and defend myself. I have made it a point since my first day to always tend to the lady at the table first and ask her and her alone any kind of question, not even looking the other males at the table in the eyes. This time, however, the husband was the only person at the table speaking English, so even though I was addressing her, he was the only one replying, and I had no choice but to look at him. Now, I never ever even had a second thought about flirting with that man. I feel so embarrassed and humiliated and ashamed. I know the owner and manager saw the review because they actually replied. I'm starting to wonder if I should already start looking for a new job, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, I completely understand where the original poster's coming from. I know in past jobs I've worked in the restaurant industry, and let me tell you something, just from personal experience, and I'm sure some of you can relate to this, if you want to find some really entitled people and see them in their natural habitat, just work at a restaurant for like a month. You will have so many interactions with entitled Karens and Kevins, it seriously is not even funny. First of all, you're gonna have parents just like the original poster dealt with, who will blatantly lie about you just to get you in trouble. Like seriously, those parents were so out of line. The original poster did their job. They confirmed what the order was and everything. Like, what is wrong with people like this? Calling over a manager just to get you in trouble on purpose, all because you ordered the wrong thing and now it's the server's fault? And don't even get me started on the person who was lecturing the original poster. Anyone who acts like like some kind of like former expert in the restaurant industry, in my opinion, is completely bored with their life. So they go to restaurants to brag about how cool they are, how they know everything about the restaurant industry. But at the end of the day, he can't even sign his check. Like, seriously? Come on. And to top it all off, they deal with some stupid lady being like, wow, you're flirting with my husband. Like, no, lady, I'm not trying to flirt with your husband. I'm trying to make rent for this month. Are you nuts? Now, I don't know about you, but this story was like a trip down memory lane, and I seriously have a lot of sympathy for the original poster. So hopefully this can all get worked out with your manager, because clearly this lady was just trying to get you in trouble. Because I'm convinced that you could do everything right for a customer, and they would still try to find a reason to complain about you. An entitled customer tries to return a Halloween costume right before Halloween even happens. And I've never met a more delusional customer in my life. Here's what happened. So I first want to start off by saying that this happened over 20 years ago. I was an assistant manager at a craft store, and our Halloween merchandise included costumes. The store doesn't sell them anymore, and I can completely understand why not. I mean, they were always a mess. We had the usual return policy. You need a receipt, and it needs to have been purchased within 30 days, while also still being in the original packaging. But with all of that in mind, our manager was trying to enforce a new rule: no returns on holiday merchandise within 7 days of the holiday. Now, because this was a new policy, there were signs at every register and flyers we put in bags at checkout. We had a rock star for a head cashier. She could handle just about anything, but some customers just have to talk to a manager. So I come to her register when called because she has an issue with a customer trying to return an item, and the item itself is a costume. There's no receipt, there is no packaging, just a crumpled ball of cheap fabric tossed into one of our bags. I run through the issues, knowing full well that she has already heard all of this from the head cashier, but the customer in question isn't taking no for an answer. Finally, I get to the point that it's 2 days before Halloween, and we are no longer taking returns on Halloween merchandise. And she asked me a question, well, why is that? Well, silly me, I think she's a sane individual and take the time to explain to her our aggressive clearance policy on seasonal merchandise, and that there is no way that we would be able to sell it before Halloween. She thinks this is an opening to explain that we surely would be able to sell the costume. She says that 4 out of 5 of her children have worn it and they absolutely loved it. She doesn't understand why her youngest is refusing to wear it, but the fact that the other kids did surely shows what a good costume it is, and that we will have no problem selling it in the next 2 days. So I took a moment, I gathered my thoughts, and I asked her the question. So you're telling me that you had this costume for years, and it's been worn no less than 4 times, and because a 5th child is refusing to wear it, you think that we should take it back? She just shook her head enthusiastically, thinking she was finally making some kind of progress. I then gently offered her directions to the secondhand store down the street. Now, I know I got off easy. There's a lot more crazy out there in retail, but she was the most delusional customer I ever had, and I always think of her and her son every time Halloween comes around the corner. Wow, this lady seriously tried to return a costume that 4 of her kids have worn. Like, seriously, at that point, there's nothing to return. Like, this isn't a rental place. You're not borrowing it and then returning it later on. Like, when you buy this kind of costume, especially one of those cheap Halloween costumes, you have to know there's no way on earth you're ever gonna return that. Like, that's going to collect dust until the end of time in your closet. And some of those cheap costumes are just that. They are incredibly cheap. They don't fit correctly all the way. Sometimes they're like super itchy and they feel weird, and you find yourself unable to wear it for more than like maybe an hour. So the fact that this customer seriously thought that they would be able to return it is honestly incredibly funny. My girlfriend has the mental resilience of a toddler, getting angry and upset and even crying over the smallest things possible. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My partner and I have been together for 3 years, and I would say everything has been great. We bicker here and there, but have never had any major arguments. I do most of the chores around the house, but I enjoy doing them, and while she struggles to help, she does make a good effort that I'm happy with. The biggest gripe that I've been dealing with lately is that she will break down, start to cry, and throw a tantrum at the most minor of inconveniences. For example, if I can't park in her favorite parking spot, or I have to park a little further away from the grocery store entrance, she will cry for about 20 minutes in the car and be in this miserable mood for the next hour or so. Or maybe we're playing video games and it's a single player or a multiplayer experience and she ends up losing. Well, she then throws the headset and controller and starts to cry again. If she knows she has to go in 30 minutes early for work, she will be miserable the night before. Maybe the bank's closed because it's a Sunday. Well, in that case, her whole day is ruined, and she will remain mute or barely talk for the next 2 hours. Now keep in mind, this is only when she's around me, close friends, or her family. When she's around coworkers or acquaintances, she's completely fine and can tolerate just about anything that might come her way. Now, I could deal with this for the first year and would usually respond with love and affection, such as a hug or even holding her, but it has slowly become more and more annoying until it's just become such a downer on my mood. It's hard to want to go out or do anything with her because I'm always fearing that something small will happen that will spark this. What's most frustrating is that after she's done throwing a tantrum, she will act like nothing has happened. But in the meantime, I'm still stuck in fight or flight mode. I don't know how to tell her that her reactions are overblown and that they wear greatly on me. Obviously, if something minor sends her over the top, then me saying something like that would be like setting a nuke off. I feel I've coddled her too much from these outbursts, and as a result, she kind of expects it. And now I seriously don't know what to do. Before we go any further, the original poster actually has an update on the situation. Here's what they had to say. Okay, so I've taken all the responses that I've received from this post, and after a quick nap, I decided to bring it up and tell her what's going on. She has gotten very sullen, but after I said my part, she admitted that it is an issue and that she feels bad about how it made me feel. She understands that it's not right to doomsday over the little things. She didn't resist and agreed that it'd be best for her to go see a therapist to try and help her, and I've agreed to help her find one. Now, I've dealt with depression for over a decade, and I used to get into really dark places, and after years of therapy, I'm in the best shape mentally thanks to a good therapist. I do understand that she won't become perfect overnight, but I'm confident that there will be improvements, and that's all I can really care about. I just want her to try and make an effort. Anytime I've brought up an issue, she's always been very quick to correct it, and hopefully this effort continues to be made. Yeah, that does sound like a really tricky situation. Just from reading through the post, it really does seem like your girlfriend is going through some kind of depressive episode. I mean, she would start crying over the smallest things, and I think that's like a big sign of someone going through some kind of depressive episode, or maybe there's something going wrong in their life or something like that. But you know what? With all that in mind, I really think you've proven yourself as a good partner. You've dealt with this for so many years at this point. You've really tried your best to just deal with this and try and hold her and take care of her as best you can, but eventually it hit a point where you needed to have some kind of change, and thankfully your partner was very open to it. So truly, I hope this all works out for the two of you, because it really does sound like the both of you are in this relationship for the long haul. Would I be the jerk if I got married in my friend's wedding dress, which is also the same wedding dress that she wore when she found out that her soon-to-be husband was actually cheating on her? Here's what happened. So I'm a 29-year-old female, and I'm getting married next May to my boyfriend of 11 years. We've been engaged since the birth of our child 5 years ago. Due to a number of circumstances, mostly all due to financial reasons, we have had a long engagement. I have been friends with Caitlin, that's not her real name, all the way since grade school. And although we're not best friends, we have had a long and joyful friendship that means a lot to me. I went to Caitlin's wedding for her college sweetheart, which happened when she was freshly graduated at 23. Unfortunately, her husband was found in a bathroom stall with one of his coworkers at the reception. My heart broke for her, and I was part of her support system in the aftermath. She is now happily remarried with 2 kids of her own. In planning for my own wedding, the one thing I've been struggling with for years is the dress that I want to wear. My body image is poor, and I do have an unusually large chest that makes all shopping just awful. But I went thrift shopping last week and I found the dress. It was everything I could have dreamed of, and it fit me perfectly. I literally fell to my knees crying in the dressing room. Right away, I sent a photo to everyone I could think of, including my friend Caitlin. Well, she called me immediately. I didn't see it then, but when I got home, I saw that I had multiple missed calls and text messages from Caitlin. Well, it's then that I found out that it's her wedding dress from her marriage to her ex. Apparently, she finally decided to let it go. Since it was so long ago, I genuinely didn't recognize it. It's also not as if she goes around parading her wedding photos to anybody. But once she said it, I remembered right away. Now, I tried to laugh it off, but she said to me, "I'm sure they'll let you return it under the circumstances." At that point, I felt sick to my stomach because it was obvious she didn't want me to wear the dress, and I was already super attached to it. I stopped engaging for the rest of the night, and I talked it over with my fiance and some other friends. And I have to say, everybody's opinions are split. Some know how hard this process has been for me and think that Caitlin is being petty. And honestly, I don't think that way at all. I really get where she's coming from, but I literally cannot keep looking. It was only for $30 and I have a 5-year-old. I would love to spend wedding dress money on her instead. Other people say that it's not only a bad omen, but disrespectful to Caitlyn to look at me in her dress. In my opinion, Caitlyn has moved on and has a family. If the roles were reversed, I would be thrilled for her. Now, with that said, I do completely understand that I could be the jerk by reminding a friend I do love of one of the worst days that she ever had in her life. I tried talking to her about it the next day, but she has been firm on not attending my wedding if I wear the dress. She actually said she is rethinking the friendship in general, and I'm honestly gutted, and I really just don't think that's fair. I would love to find a solution that allows me to keep the dress and my friend. So honestly, would I be the jerk if I got married in this dress? What should I do? Honestly, I can't even imagine the embarrassment and pain that your friend went through on that day. Like seriously, they bought that dress for themselves to get married to somebody they thought they could love, only to then find out that their husband cheated on them. So when I say it's a bad idea to wear that dress on your wedding day, I seriously mean that. Like, this would be an awful thing to do to your friend, and I don't blame her for saying, I'm not showing up if you're wearing that. Are you kidding me? Like, seriously, this is not a good thing to do. I don't believe in any of that bad energy or bad omen BS. I think that's all garbage in my opinion, and I really don't think that garbage should inform your decision. But in my opinion, what absolutely should inform your decision is how upset your friend is getting. Like seriously, you said it yourself. This dress only cost $30 at a thrift store. It did not break the bank to get this dress, and I think it would be a massive misstep to choose the dress over your friendship. Like seriously, I can't believe you're even considering wearing this in the first place. I would be mortified if I was your friend in this situation. And sure, congratulations, the dress fits you. But in exchange for having a dress that fits your body, you're about to lose a friend who clearly wants to be involved in your life. Like, your friend has it right in my opinion. She's rethinking this friendship and pretty much everything she knows about you because you would rather get a dress that fits instead of think about her feelings. And honestly, that is such a selfish place to operate from. So truly, I hope you do the right thing, because in my opinion, this would absolutely be a huge betrayal of trust, and I can't imagine ever trying to justify this. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.